Who were mean to him?
Everybody. Everybody was so mean to him for no reason. It's unnecessary.
Did you guys watch...
He's forced to watch everything that we have to watch.
What were his thoughts?
I don't know if he really said anything. I think he was like fell asleep at parts, so...
Yeah, that makes sense. I figured it would spark you and him to watch a, documentary about the conspiracy theory.
Is there a documentary? Is there a conspiracy theory about this? Wait, now I need to know more information. I didn't know that.
Okay. Well, alright.
Let's talk about this.
Part of yeah, now we have to talk about this.
Which I assume, I kind of figured it was something, it was a real something, but I never looked into it.
I am Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is Shelf Life, a podcast where a brother and sister team always solve conspiracy theories when it comes to their subjects at hand. But really what we're doing is going through pop culture one at a time to determine what belongs on your shelf, no matter the genre, be that movies, TVs, books, games, video games, sports entertainment, others, comics, anything else that we can think of. And we go through those things at a detailed pace, calling them walkthroughs. Mm-hmm. So we're in the heart of Volume 4 here at Shelf Life, and after a big first half of the volume, we come to this subject. This is a different kind of subject that we have on tap for you today. I can't even remember how we decided we were going to do this one. I think we just wanted to do something obscure.
I think I wanted to do something I've never seen before, and I was like, "Ooh, look at this! This sounds like something."
And it's obscure.
Yes.
It's kind of forgotten. I don't even know if it's got a cult following.
I don't know.
The fact that it was on Tubi,
it could then,
kind of means that it's probably like a forgotten 80s B movie thing.
Probably. I would think so.
Right? That's where they dump all this stuff.
I have a feeling it's one of those things where if you bring this up, someone's going to be like, "Oh yeah, that movie."
Yeah.
And then they'd have some sort of weird nostalgia for it.
And Tubi is the official streaming site of Red Letter Media. Everything for Best of the Worst is on that site.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Rachel, what is up for contention today?
Oh, I guess we haven't said.
No.
It is the movie from 1984.
That's correct.
Oh, yeah, right. Nice.
A big year for movies. Big year for movies. We're going to come back. This is like a 1978 type of year for movies.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But for today, it is 1984's The Philadelphia Experiment.
That's right. The biggest movie from 1984.
Oh, absolutely.
Not Terminator or Ghostbusters or Gremlins.
No.
A lot
of sci-fi. A lot of sci-fi.
Yeah.
It is a sci-fi year.
It's a sci-fi year. Well, 1984.
1984.
Yeah. Also came out in 1984.
We should do that one, too. That's added to the list.
No, we're already doing a George Orwell next week.
Okay, fine. We'll do Dune next, then. We'll get another sci-fi.
Now, 1984 is David Lynch's Dune. You're right. We could do a Dune, and it could also be 1984.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
We could do that. We don't even have to wait a few years for Dune to become, is it Shelf Life? Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
So yes, we are doing 1984 is the Philadelphia Experiment, directed by Stuart Raffel.
Go with your gut.
Okay, I'm saying Raffel. I'm saying Raffel, so apologies if I have that wrong, Mr. Raffel. Stuart Raffel's 1984 movie, The Philadelphia Experiment, the auteur that brought us such hits as Mac and Me.
Oh my god. No.
Yes, it's the same director.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I can see
Rachel's reaction to that is just so perfect. I'm just all right.
Yeah.
I can deal with that.
That's fine.
Yeah, so this might be, in fact, his best movie. There's a chance.
You're setting everybody up to think this is just a dumpster fire. All right.
It's okay.
How dare you?
You're right. I'm sorry. I should withhold judgment until the shelf life verdict. I apologize. Rachel, what is your history with the Philadelphia Experiment, and what is the Philadelphia Experiment? The movie. I need to be clear because we'll get into it in a minute.
So I don't have any history with the Philadelphia Experiment. None whatsoever. I've never seen it. I think maybe I've come across and like heard the name of it before, but I've never watched it or anything like that. I never went into the lore of the Philadelphia Experiment either, which apparently is also a large conspiracy. And this movie does the sci-fi version, like the big old conspiracy, as a movie itself. So we have two men from World War II get shot into the future. Like, I guess getting shot into the future doesn't sound right. Getting shocked into the future? Get electrocuted?
They
zapped.
time travel.
They're zapped. They get
They
traveled
travel
into
through
the
time.
future.
They travel through time literally in the Doctor Who wormhole.
Yes, through a wormhole.
Yeah.
And they kind of have to figure out what happened, how do we get back, and then the government gets involved, and it's this whole thing. I mean, they're already involved because those were two soldiers too. So
right, yes. So it is
Navy.
Yeah, it's outlining the story of the government trying to do some sort of secret testing, and something goes wrong, and they get transported to the 80s.
The whole idea is that they want to make the boats invisible.
Right. Yeah, they're trying to make the boats. They're trying to make the boats invisible to radar. I don't think they're trying to literally make them invisible. I don't think that was the plan.
I kind of assume that it's more so to radar. I would kind of assume that, but I think for the movie's purposes, I think they're literally trying to make them invisible. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get into that. So, I am with you. I've never seen this movie. The only history I have with the Philadelphia Experiment is We Hate Movies did the sequel to this movie.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Way back in the day, in like their first or second year of doing the podcast. So I've listened to them talk about that movie, but I don't know anything or didn't know anything about this one going in. And then when we decided to put it on the card for volume 4, I went and like looked at the trailer and I was like, oh, okay, it looks very low budget. It's not really, it's just the trailer was like it's because I think trailers from the 80s, like everything is like badly lit and like because like where are you going to find a trailer for, so
I guess so. Yeah.
But yeah, this was definitely my first experience watching this. I knew nothing about it other than what the Philadelphia Experiment kind of was, but that was about it. Only things about this movie, so like we said, Stuart Rayfield is the director of the movie. He was not the first director that the producers wanted. The producers wanted John Carpenter. So this could have been a John Carpenter movie.
Wow, okay.
And I don't know if you noticed,
Everybody
Rachel, but
John Carpenter.
Well, yeah, it's 1984. So John Carpenter is an executive producer on this movie.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know. Apparently, he came up with a framework of the story. The first script was a John Carpenter script, but this masterpiece, Rachel, was written 9 times.
Whoa,
there were 9 versions of the script.
That's a lot of times. I mean, I don't know if that's normal, if that's average.
It feels like a few more than I would expect, probably.
Sure.
Yeah, folks at home that know more about screenwriting, is that a lot? Because it seems like a fair amount. A lot. Or 9 different writers taking a pass at it. That's a lot.
That's a lot of different thought processes.
Yeah.
They could all have completely different styles.
Well, and that's why I kind of wonder how much, if anything, is left from the John Carpenter initial pitch or outline or whatever. But he still got to keep the executive producer rights. So in that way, this is sort of John Carpenter-esque. But Rayfield and him never talked about it. I don't think they ever met. So I don't really know how much John Carpenter, Okay. I feel like it's something that they just kind of stamped on that John Carpenter worked on this because it's John Carpenter and it's like a brand recognition.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way.
But this was probably I'm looking at Rayfield's filmography right now, and this might have been his first like biggest movie. Here are the movies he directed, and I don't think that outside of Mac and Me, which he directed 4 years after this, we would know any of them. There's a couple that we would know. The Tender Warrior, Snow Tigers, The Adventures of the Wilderness Family, Across the Great Divide, The Sea Gypsies, High Risk. This is next. The Ice Pirates, which I've seen a Red Letter Media review because Rich Evans apparently loved that movie as a kid. Mac and Me, Mannequin 2, On the Move.
I feel like I know that one for some reason.
He wrote Passenger 57. He wrote and directed Mac and Me, by the way. Nice. Tammy and the T-Rex on the list, along with Mac and Me. Fuck it. Lost in Africa, The New Swiss Family Robinson, and then there's like a bunch of other stuff. So outside of Mac and Me and Tammy and the T-Rex, and then the Ice Pirates because of Red Letter Media, I don't know any of this stuff. So kind of a more obscure director, I would say, compared to some of the stuff that we've been doing.
Sure.
Just because it's an obscure movie. It's an obscure movie, Rachel. I don't really have any other stuff to talk about the making of this movie, so I figured, Rachel, I could tell you the story of the conspiracy that is the Philadelphia Experiment.
I want to hear all about it. Tell me everything.
So I did not watch any nutcase conspiracy videos on YouTube. I didn't even watch documentaries that have been made that are on Tubi. You can watch a documentary on Tubi about the Philadelphia Experiment. I have no idea how good or bad it is. But I did look up a little article stuff about it. I can tell you this is what it is. According to Carl Allen, he was a Philadelphia naval ex-merchant mariner.
Okay. Mariner or mariner? Does that matter?
Whatever. I don't know if it matters. I don't know. He witnessed the Philadelphia Experiment, which was where he described it as the U.S. Navy attempted to make the USS Eldridge, which is the ship in the movie. Mm-hmm. They use the same thing. It's the USS Eldridge in the movie.
Right.
They attempted to make it disappear, and then there were bizarre results that followed. So that happened in 1943. We didn't hear about this. It first surfaced in 1955. Allen sent a book full of just notes that he had taken referring to this experiment, and then he sent a series of letters to a UFO, a writer that primarily did UFO books.
Yeah.
Because it's the 50s.
Of course.
It was initially thought of as a hoax, and then it was backed up by a hoax because the people that knew this guy were like, oh, he likes to tell tall tales. He's not all there. He's got a screw loose or two. Aww. So it's clearly just a conspiracy theory guy.
Sure.
But no one of any of these conspiracy theory nuts has ever let that stop them.
Of course
so
not.
They just ran with it. And even though there's no proof of any of this happening, the fact that there is no proof means that of course there's proof because they're covering it all up. That's why there's no proof.
Right. Yes.
So,
it's a government funded, and it's government held. It's in Area 51 now. Yeah.
So what was the alleged incident? And then eventually he kind of published it, but he couldn't find this Carl Allen guy. And then that's where he tried to find where is this guy? And family described him as a fantastic mind, but also a drifter and a master leg puller. But
wow,
this story then gets...
That's what I want everybody to tell everybody else. I'm a master leg puller. Let's go.
The story starts to get repeated. In 1965, there's a book published. It recounts the story of the experiment. In 1978, there's a novel where this same type of thing happens. So it kind of lives on a little bit. As far as conspiracy theories go, this one sounds like it kind of died before it ever kind of started. But there are probably people out there that believe it. And like I said, there are theories out there, or there are documentaries and stuff that are telling you about it. So what people think this actually was. So I'll tell you what the thought is here, because it is what the movie shows. So they think, or what the conspiracy theory is that in Philadelphia, the USS Eldridge was supposed to have some equipment on it to make it invisible. It was successful to a limited extent, and witnesses reported a greenish fog appearing in place of where the ship was. But the ship disappeared, and in its place was a greenish fog.
Interesting.
Crew members complained of nausea afterward, and then when the ship reappeared, some sailors were embedded in the metal structures of the ship, One sailor ended up on a deck below where he began, and he had his hand embedded
because,
in the steel hull of the ship.
I have a feeling they just hallucinated. They probably used, like, they were like, you know what? We're going to use some green, like, smoke and spray, and we're going to do this green screen technology I've heard so much about, and we're going to make it, like, real. But it's like, it sounds like some sort of noxious gas was just, like, released on the ship.
That would be like a plausible way of, like, if any of this actually happened, that's...
It just sounds like they had, like, people were hallucinating because, like, there was a gas leak.
But, well, there's no actual evidence that any of this happened. So it's not even that there was a gas leak.
Exactly.
It's just none of this happened.
Just none of this actually happened.
There was something else about it, and now I can't find it, but there was something else about it where, at least according to Alan, that the crew members said that when they were disappeared, they saw aliens, and aliens helped them get back to this state, this physical state. So yeah,
and now it's just the Doctor Who episode.
Some also said that the Eldridge not only just became invisible, but it also disappeared and teleported to Norfolk, Virginia, and many
was
versions
it a submarine?
include...
Did they see a submarine and it, like, was up, and then all of a sudden it died?
And then it went sink.
And they all went, oh, it disappeared. And it's like, yeah, it's a submarine. It went into the water.
It went under. So, again, there is no substantiating evidence anywhere about any of this. It's just a story someone made up. So this never actually happened. There was a theory.
As far as you know.
As far as I know. That's right. Yes. They don't want me to know about it. I'm the deep state by saying that none of this actually happened.
How dare you
You're right.
accuse these people of not telling the truth?
You're right.
They are telling their truth. All right.
Folks, the Philadelphia Experiment is real, okay? They have the ability to teleport you. They have the ability to make you disappear. And they'll make you disappear if you disagree with everything that they agree with. And they're going to make you disappear. Just like they made the USS Eldridge disappear.
Of course.
That's what these deep state folks don't want you to know. Somebody posited the only real world thing that could have been was they experimented in Navy yards between ships of trying to disrupt their radar.
Sure.
By shooting electromagnet stuff back and forth at each other. So that you couldn't pick up the ships on radar. And in that way they were quote unquote invisible. So I guess if you were a drunkard in the 40s, or you were crazy, you could interpret all of that by they were trying to experiment to make the ships literally invisible.
Like if the seamen, the Navy guys were like at a bar and were talking about it, and some like person that was drunk overheard that, they'd be like, "Oh my god, the government's making boats invisible!" Like that's what I'm expecting. And then they're like, "I'm gonna have to tell everybody about this."
Making boats invisible. I swear to God.
That's what it feels like.
Another problem with it is that the timeline doesn't match up because the Eldridge was not commissioned until August of 1943. It remained in New York City until September 1943, and it went to the Bahamas after that. So as far as you know, ship. Well, they could have teleported it.
That's right. That's right. It was in two places at once. You want to know why? It went through time. That's right.
So yes, the Philadelphia Experiment, another part of our crazy, kooky urban legends. But
love it.
It's a decent enough idea because it makes sense. Like it's 1943, you're fighting the Nazis. You have to come up with ways in your science program.
He's doing crazy technology. We should do some crazy technology too, and try to.
Yeah. So I like to
fight.
It's a fun science fiction type of thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're fighting Nazis, so we have to find a way to make our ships invisible so then they can't see them. And then we'll pop up and we'll fight them or whatever.
We'll sneak attack. Yeah.
Yeah. So I like it. It's a good idea. It's a fun science fiction story that for some reason people are idiots. So they'll just... there's people out there that I think Game of Thrones happened. Like, I think they think that they're watching a historical event.
No.
I bet you there are people like that. I think there are. I think there are.
No, you're right. You're probably right. I have nothing to say to that.
But anyway, it's a good idea for a story, and eventually they were like, we could make a movie loosely based off of that, and so they have John Carpenter, who it makes sense to get John Carpenter in the 1980s to try to do this. He's not going to do it, but he's gonna make it give it a pass, and then it goes through all these things, and then they make it. Nobody remembers this. It's been 40 plus years at the time of this recording that this thing came out. So now we're gonna go through it. Rachel, anything else?
No. I did recognize a actor in this, but that comes like very later in this
Was
movie.
it Steven Tobolowsky?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. The guy with the glasses.
Yeah.
The guy who always
Steven
plays the nerdy.
Tobolowsky. He's in everything.
Why is he in everything?
He's just a character actor. It's a good life. That man. Okay, we gotta do it. Yes. We'll take a break after a word from our fake sponsor. We will come back, and we will walk through the Philadelphia Experiment. Ooh.
They're like, woo! Like it's a scary movie.
Like it's a scary experiment.
Woo!
It's a conspiracy theory. It's supposed to be scary. The Navy did not support making the film, as it did not want to be associated with the events depicted in it, which just fuels fire to this conspiracy theory.
Of course it does. So you don't want to be a part of this? Are you saying there's something to hide, Navy? Perhaps?
Would you hide it enough to kill?
This you have never seen before because I just made it up. The sweeter cola machine. Pepsi. RC like C&C. Where's Coke? Coke does not live in that neighborhood because Coke is sweetened less than all of those. Now, what does that mean to me? Less sweet means more thirst quenching, more refreshing, more real cola taste, better with food, better when I'm really hot, better play the music because this is going to take a while. Coke is it. Thank you. Bolder, cleaner, smarter, more delicioso.
And we're back with the Philadelphia Experiment. We're going to bring in a bunch of experts. We're going to talk about this as much as we possibly can, because we're going to get a bunch of hours out of this. Now, folks, before you go ahead and you decide one way or another whether or not you believe the Philadelphia Experiment, I want you to make sure that you are taking all of our supplement vitamins, which will allow you to see into the future and be able to see the Philadelphia Experiment firsthand.
Don't take anything this man tells you to take. Don't do that.
All it is we extracted juice from a worm, just like in the hit movie Dune, and it will allow you to see into the past and the future. We got it on the website here. It's $39.95 for a pound of it on the website. It allows you to go back to 1943.
Also poisonous.
And it will allow you to see into the future.
Will kill you. Do not drink. Do not ingest. I repeat.
Anyway.
Do not ingest.
We are back with the Philadelphia Experiment from 1984. We are going to go through the walkthrough. A relatively forgotten movie, I think. It just being this thing, because like Rachel, when you and I were young, it was probably one that like played on cable, but I don't ever remember it playing on cable or anything like that. So
no,
for us, this was a new experience. So let's get right into it. The movie begins, and it starts with some relatively boring credits, some plain font. It just goes through the stars and everything,
right?
And then we get a scroll.
We get a Star Wars scroll.
It's not okay. Hold on. It's not a Star Wars.
I was joking
because it's boring to be a Star Wars.
It's very short. It's very like dramatic.
I expected it to be like the scroll from Texas Chainsaw, where like you got a guy's voice over it, and it like kind of creeps you out a little bit.
Really?
You know what I'm talking
about? No.
There's like
Does that happen
there's like a
in the
letter
Texas
at the
Chainsaw?
beginning. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
and
I don't remember that.
He's like, the events that you're about to witness happened in 19 blah 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 blah. And it's like it actually kind of creeps you out because like his voice and like what they're telling you, it's like ooh.
Right.
Would
you like me to give you that voice here? Would you like me to do cinematic voice?
Would you like to do cinematic voice? Yes. Thank you. Please, Rachel, tell us what the scroll says. I was going to say that, so go ahead, go for it.
Oh, would you rather do it? Would you like to make it more?
No, please. It's your turn.
In 1943, the U.S. Navy conducted a series of tests to render Allied ships invisible to enemy radar. The results of these tests have never been made public. The final test, which resulted in the project's termination, has come to be known as the Philadelphia Experiment. Is that okay?
Okay. So again, the shame of us being the audio podcast is Rachel shut down like a robot after she said experiment. Like you immediately.
What did you want me to do? That's all it's saying.
No, okay, because all right, hold on. I'm gonna do exactly what you did.
Yeah,
okay,
but
ready?
not.
You went the Philadelphia Experiment. Because you look down.
You're so mean.
I was just like, I thought that you were waiting for me. Like, oh yes, good job. Like
You
were
didn't
like doing like a
applaud for me.
bow. You're like end
dare you.
scene.
Exactly.
Yes. So this scroll comes up. I go back and forth on scrolls a lot because to me, I go back and forth because on one hand, it's an easy way to convey like, okay, this is the world or this is the story that you're about to go in.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I'm kind of like, shouldn't your movie be showing that and not do it through a scroll?
One, I think it should have been, like you were saying, a person narrating over it. I think it should have been the scientist guy from the movie, like, saying it, and then they show it. I think that's what should have happened.
Would it have been good as, I'm not saying the whole movie should have been this. This is how it could have gone instead. It could have been like a framing device where the scientist is giving testimony. So you're seeing him, like a video, they're recording him giving testimony about it.
Oh, that could be interesting.
And that could have been the way to, like, go in. Because, like, if he gave testimony, it would have been the exact same thing. He could have said, like, you know, tell us what your role was. And he could say, in 1943, I was the lead on, yeah. It could have been the exact same thing. That's probably a more modern day thought.
I feel like now that's what
the
would have
scroll
happened.
is
It
how
would have
you
been
want
like
to do it.
they'd set up the camera, it would turn on, he'd like sit down and go and like clear his throat, and then that's how it would have started, and then it would have like zoomed in and like
Yep.
I could see that.
And then it would have gone
yes.
and then like and then gone to
and
the
it comes
Philadelphia
up with like then the old music turns on, and now they're at the
or
party.
even better, there's a bunch of like redacted
all the
statements.
redacted stuff.
So like
yes.
there's a clock behind him, so it Homer Simpsons and the
and
clock
all of a sudden it just like
changes.
spins to the next
Yeah.
No, that would have been very interesting. If they really wanted to like drive it home that this actually happened, absolutely that. That.
Could have been a nice way to give you the idea that this, because even though this is based on a conspiracy theory, the movie doesn't treat it like that. The movie just treats it as like, this is a story.
This
based
weird
on
thing
something.
happened. This anomaly happened. They make it seem like an anomaly happened that same day. It wasn't like really the government doing something. They make it seem like it's just this weird anomaly.
No, I think they make it seem like the government did something.
Well, I feel like they have like a
definitely
hand in
do.
it, but at the same time, like everybody's just treating it at like, here's this weird anomalous like time storm. Like,
well, that the way that everybody is treating the fact that like the world is ending as like, it's a bad storm out here, Johnny. Like,
yeah, I guess that's where I'm like thinking about it. But it is like the government's fault.
yes, absolutely.
And they're just trying to cover it up and kill everybody. Instead of fixing it. Like, it just annoys me. Anyways.
Okay, we'll get into that. So the first scene, it starts in Philadelphia in October 1943, which I guess it actually, based on that, the timeline is better, because I think, like we said, the ship wasn't commissioned until August 1943, even though this was supposed to happen in like June 1943 or whatever. So October 1943, it's a rainy night. This dude is sitting at a desk and he's writing and he's listening to the radio. It's talking about the war. It's a very 1943, almost noirish look to this room.
Very.
There's a couple of scenes that I feel like Stuart Rayfield was like, kind of want to make a noir. I'll mention the other one where I thought like,
I kind of wish it was a noir, honestly.
Yeah, that kind of could have worked.
It would have been a very interesting way of
some like sleuth trying to figure out what happened. Yeah. That would have been an interesting way to frame it. We're coming up with
so many different ways. You know what, guys? Take these.
Remake
put them
this.
out there. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Make it interesting.
A mustachioed man walks in, lights up a cigarette, and tells James, so James, we get the name of the guy, to get some sleep. And James says he's worried that they might have missed something, and he has to keep checking. And the guy says, well, we've checked 1,000 times. What's the worst that could happen? And James checks his watch at the desk, and he just sits some more. So he's just sitting there.
Right.
World weary, this guy at the desk.
Very.
Meanwhile, there's a dance going on with some Navy shipmen and their gals.
Yes.
It being 1943, of course.
Their gals or just gals? Because some of them are just gals.
Some of them are just gals. Well, I mean, they're in uniform. It's the 40s. Those gals are looking to, trying to have a good time.
So we're the Navy men.
So are the Navy men.
Yeah.
The main guy says it at some point. He's like, "Why'd you join the Navy?" He's like,
yes.
A girl from port to port or something
yes,
like that.
A new girl at every port. Yeah. It's like, all right, good for you, bud. Good for you.
Sailors wear condoms. Not in the 90s, Austin. Well, they should. The bloody, the dirty sailors. They go from port to port.
I bet that's true. I bet all of that's true.
I guarantee you all of that is true. We meet our protagonists. At first, I didn't know what their names were. I wrote David and something. It's David and Jimmy.
Okay.
I said, or Steve and Bucky. You could just call him Steve and Bucky.
It definitely could be.
That's the same thing that you're getting out of this.
It's the idea. It's two dudes who are like best friends, almost brothers.
And they even have kind of that look to them, too.
I mean, yes, but that's also, I think, that type of year's look.
It's a trope.
That's a look. That's a look
That's
for that.
just the look. They look 40s-ish.
Look at the women's hair and everything. It all looks like that.
Mm-hmm. The production design is interesting in this because it is a lower budget movie. The budget was like $9 million or whatever it was. Or $10 million? But $9 million. Some of the sets and stuff, you can tell they're framing around it so that it doesn't look as cheap or anything like that. It's charming though in that way.
Yeah,
so like
I mean,
this
even
you can tell it's
like you could definitely make it look like a dive bar, and it's just like old and full of smoke, and of course that's what
you
it
can
would be.
smell the smoke in this scene.
Oh, 100%. I'm already coughing from it.
Everyone in this scene looks 30 years older than they actually are, just from the smell. David is dancing with this chick, and he tells her that this might be my last dance. And she goes, "That's a lot of malarkey. They're going to..." So we get some exposition here, because she says to him, they're going out in the harbor, and they're getting out of the war for 6 months. So I'm guessing that, this isn't like explicitly stated, but I'm guessing what happened is they were looking for volunteers for this experiment.
Yeah.
And they were like enticing them by being like, well, you're not going to be shipped out to the war for another 6 months because you're like have to go into quarantine after this experiment. Home. Yeah, so you'll stay in the States. Because they even say something about like going back to California, because that's where they're from. You're an enlisted naval man during World War II. Like, you're not going home. Like, what are you talking about?
Sure.
You're somewhere. David wants to screw in the office because the girl says, we're not going back to... Well, yeah, why not? It's the last, for all you know. And I thought that this was his girlfriend. Rachel, is this his girlfriend?
Whose girlfriend?
David's. Or is this just some chick?
This is just some chick.
Okay.
There's no way that this is his girlfriend. I think this is the wife's friend. And they're probably trying to set him up to
I do think it's the wife's
like a
friend.
Girlfriend instead of like screwing around.
Okay.
I think that's what's happening. But instead he's just womanizing.
I like that characterization. I don't know if you get enough of that, though. It would be kind of nice if he was, like, a womanizer. Like, he's a womanizer, and Jimmy, who is his buddy, is the family man. Yeah, because his wife is pregnant. Right. Because, of course she is. Because she has to be.
It makes everything sadder, okay?
Right. I'm surprised that when we get to the ship, the old man, that the other guy's like, oh, they're gonna take your job away from you, Bill, or whatever he says. I'm surprised that guy didn't go, well, if this works, I can finally retire, or something like that. Like, like, it's all these cliches that they have to throw in.
We want it to be like the saddest thing. Everybody needs a way to get home, or they're all dead.
Yeah.
Right.
So we learn these things about them. Jimmy's like a shorter, and he's got black hair. David is taller and got brown hair. And David talks like this, kind of like Sylvester Stallone already.
He reminds me of a couple of people. He reminds me of, not Ponyboy. What's the brother?
No, you're thinking of Dallas.
Yes.
You're thinking of Matt Dillon. Yeah, Dallas.
I'm thinking of Matt Dillon and
it is
the
that
other
effective
one.
Voice. Yeah.
And the other one. Both of them, like, mixed together.
Soda Pop?
Ghost.
Pony Boy Soda Pop.
What the fuck is his name?
Well, Patrick Swayze.
Patrick Swayze.
But, okay.
Yes. Patrick Swayze and Matt Damon.
Dillon.
Shove them together. Dillon. Damn it. Matt Dillon and Patrick Swayze mixed together. And kind of like a rip-off version, you know? A little
All right, I'll
cheap
give you
version
that.
of them.
Yeah. A cheap 80s version of them, yeah.
Yeah. That's what he
Because-
reminds me of.
because he talks like that the whole time. Hey, I'm a tough guy from
How is he from-
California. But
Yeah,
I
he's from
talk like I'm
California, but I have a
from
Brooklyn accent.
the
Like,
Bronx.
I'm actually from Brooklyn, but that's
And I'm
fine.
stationed in Philly, but whatever. Hey.
He's definitely from Philly. Like, he's like, you're definitely from
Yeah,
there.
I'm gonna get a cheesesteak, you know, hey.
Hey!
So anyway, they start playing Glenn Miller. I think it's Glenn Miller, isn't that one?
You know, classic music that you would know as 40s music.
Absolutely. Be the equivalent of playing Taylor Swift at a party now. David goes to get his wife a Coke and a drink.
Britney Spears in the 2000s.
Or not his wife. He goes to get Jimmy's wife a Coke while he gets a drink. And they see other guy, who is that guy also named Jimmy? I guess he also is named Jimmy.
Are they all Jimmy? No.
Because the mustachioed guy calls him Jimmy, but that's not the Jimmy, the soldier Jimmy. Soldier Jimmy is that
Navy Jimmy. Navy.
Yeah, baby Jimmy.
Baby Jimmy.
Isn't that what you just said?
Baby. Navy.
Oh, Navy Jimmy.
Navy.
They are both Jimmy.
All right. That,
What the fuck?
Poor writing. Poor writing. I'm upset.
Yeah, so the doctor, the scientist's name is Dr.
That doesn't come
Longstreet.
into anything. Like, that
No,
doesn't
and
come into play.
I just called him Longstreet in most of my stuff, but it's James Longstreet.
Like Longfellow.
And then Jim Parker is Navy Jimmy. So they're both named Jimmy.
Oh my god.
You can't do that in your first scene.
No, that's confusing.
You can do that later on in the movie. If you do that in your first scene, you could easily think that, is this the same guy?
It's the same guy. Definitely the same guy.
It's not the same guy, but you could
I'm
think
kidding.
that. They're getting a drink, and the guys at the bar see Longstreet, because I put Jimmy, because that's what we knew his name was now. Longstreet leaving, and they say he doesn't look too happy, but they don't really give it any other mind than that.
Sure.
Jimmy's wife is going back to California when they go into quarantine, because she's like, well, why would I stick around here? Like, I can't see you guys, so I might as well,
so
go
might
home.
as well go back to family or whatever.
I guess even in quarantine... Okay, so here's the thing. How pregnant is she? Because you signed... I guess
She's
it's
showing, too?
Yeah. I guess it's better than going overseas, so he's getting out of the war, but he's in quarantine, so we won't be able to see the baby either way.
I mean,
right?
Yeah, 'cause,
so I guess
6
either
months,
way, he wasn't
she's
going
probably
to be able to see the
pop
baby.
before that, yeah.
Yeah, because she's at least 4 or 5 months.
But that's why she might as well go back to family instead of just staying stuck on, like,
Right.
wherever she is right now.
At some base. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Don't you
I
think?
guess... Yeah, no, I agree, because if you can't see
Especially
him...
if she's like, if he's going to be done in 6 months and he gets to come home for a while.
Right, and then they're done, yeah.
Right. Which is
So-
definitely why he took this, because he's like, well, if I can do this and then go home to my wife and child, then that's what I'm going to do.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the shortest route out of the war as possible, and that's this.
Right.
Yeah. They clearly have a small hall to film for this. You can tell just by the way the camera moves around this hall a bit, because like it's like, all right, we're in a very tight quarters here, but we're making it look like a big party before the crew. And then they say it's the last dance, so Jimmy comes to grab the wife for the last dance. He's very, very, he's just, they're hammering home that he loves the wife by being like, oh, I gotta dance with you, baby, like, that kind of stuff.
Because he danced with the other girl so that she could do like the big fun crazy dance where it's like he throws her up in the air and over his shoulder and all that crap.
Yeah.
So it's like Obviously, this pregnant one's not going to do that.
Right.
But you can tell it's like, oh, well, I'm going to come back to her, though. Like, that's just how it works.
And as they dance, David, who I thought was going to go back and dance with the other girl, but he doesn't. He just sits and
he looks solemn.
Thinks. Yes. He's a
solemn.
mopey protagonist. This entire movie, he's kind of mopey. Even before what happens to him happens to them.
Yes.
Just a little, I'm very angsty, my old man, he doesn't care about me. You gotta be tough like me, Matt Dillon. Then there's more credits. There's Navy men on the bridge. So like the crew is transporting
they're being
to the Navy Yard. Yeah, the Philly Navy Yard here. It's a really shaky camera for
it's because they're actually just sitting on the truck. Because
yeah,
there's no dialogue, there's
there's
no sound because it's just so loud. They're like, there's no way we're going to get any dialogue in this scene. We'll just make it a montage of us going over the bridge. No, they're totally like, it's just too damn loud. It was probably too windy. And they had the camera just sitting on the truck, bouncing up and out. And then it was just kind of going across the bridge.
I wrote it was to make it feel more like a movie. So they were like, make the camera shake.
I think it was literally just the trucks.
I don't like shaky camera. I've never liked shaky camera. So
shaky cam on purpose? Like think of the Hunger Games, the first one. Horrendous. Horrendous.
Awful. Yeah.
Never.
Or the Bourne movies do it, but at least they're cutting it with action a little better. But they were like the only one that did it
with like trying to get past something.
And they were the only ones that ever did it well, and then everybody tries to do it now.
That's actually very true. Yeah, we'll get to those.
Yeah, it's on the list. A funny name that I saw: the director of the director of photography, Rachel. I wrote, haha, Dick Bush. His name's Dick Bush.
Yep, there you go. That's just sad. I'm so sorry.
Dick Bush doing a great job with the shaky cam. You're on the. It should have been the shakiest camera they could do, and then it should have just said Dick Bush as the director of photography. As they move on, they see Pam. Pam is Jimmy's wife, and then he shouts to her because this guy is a fucking clinger. This wife is probably like, oh, thank God I'm not going to see this guy for 6 months. He's so dependent on me. I cannot stand it anymore.
What's wrong with him being like just a very optimistic kind of a guy? Because like, I don't think he's a level 9 clinger.
He's like, hey, Pam! Hey! I don't know. It seemed
she was there to see him off. She was there.
She was getting in the car to go home to California.
I think, fine, whatever. I kind of thought maybe she was also just waiting for him to go by so she could wave to him.
For a second, I thought she was in on it or something. The way
so did I! I had this exact thought! The way she gets the look on her face, and she's just like it's gonna happen today.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, whoa.
She plays with the necklace like she knows something bad
is
gonna
knows
happen.
Something. She looked so, like shifty-eyed sketchy. I was like, what does she know? Like, immediately thought that. Like, I guess she's just supposed to look like sad
pensive,
and somber that he's gone, and hopefully everything goes okay.
Yeah.
But it's like, you look like you know something. Like, you're in on it.
She looked like she was in on it.
You're so in on it.
I kept waiting for that to be the twist.
I'll never see him again, but at least I have the baby. Like,
yeah. I kept waiting for that to be the twist, that she was in on it. And that's why she needed to skip
This is what they meant to happen. This is what they meant to happen.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
And she was told to skip town.
That movie.
That's why she's going to California.
Yeah.
See, I know where this verdict is going just by the fact that we have come up with like 8 different ways to improve the movie in the first 10 minutes. That's usually a sign.
Everybody place your bets.
They all get on the ship. And don't skip to the time code just so that you can find out either. They all get on the ship. The scientist from the first scene, Longstreet, is on that ship. And then they do some Navy banter as they get on. So, they're giving each other some light army 1940s army trash talk of like, oh yeah, I heard that she left you for that guy, and he's like, oh, I heard that she left you for that guy, and he's like, I think she left me for both. Whackity schmackity do. You know, fun.
Yeah, they used a word
army
that
banter,
I didn't understand.
Or Navy banter. What was the word? Because I did not write down a specific word for this.
Hold on, because I think this was the point where I was like, you know what? Turn the closed captions on, because it was a little hard to understand.
When you watch a movie for Shelf Life, you've almost got to have the closed captions.
I feel like you have to.
Just in case we missed something.
A skimmer puke?
Skimmer puke. Yeah. Okay.
That whole conversation... surface baby. I'm like, what?
I'm sure these are all 1940s terms. And then what was the other term?
Hey, Schmitty, I heard your old lady ran off with a skimmer puke.
Okay, so it must be...
I heard it was an Airedale.
It's naval term. It is a Navy terminology. So skimmer puke...
Must be one of, like, the lower levels, like, clean the deck type of guys.
Clean the shit. Yeah. That's what it's got to be, right?
And then it says, I heard it was an Airedale, and that's capitalized.
A skimmer puke is one who has not yet received his dolphins, also known as a derogatory term for a dolphin wearer who screws up on something he should have known. And then an Airedale?
Yeah, Airedale. Capitalized. So that's definitely an actual, like...
Well, it's a dog breed. A Navy Airedale is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. There's so much naval slang, apparently. There's, like, pages and pages and pages of this.
Oh my god.
A sailor who works in one of the Navy's aviation rates, also known as brown shoes.
No, you're not explaining anything.
Folks at home, let us know what any of this terminology is. Do they still use it? Is it still there? It's gotta be there, right?
That's the one where it was like, I heard it was both of them. And then they go, surface, baby! Shit blooms! I'm like, alright! Sounds great!
Alright, so...
That whole conversation, whoosh, right over my head.
So they really just
it was
shoved...
one guy or another, and they got both, yeah.
They truly just shoved as much Navy lingo in it as they could.
Could've.
I don't know. Not a naval man. Clearly.
Anyways.
I'm doing this fucking podcast. They all get on the ship. Longstreet's there. They're talking about how they're going to get out of quarantine. Like, David's like, oh, don't worry, I got a plan for us to get out of quarantine after this is over.
Yeah, so they're going to sneak off the ship.
Yeah. He never goes about what his plan is. Would have kind of been interesting if his plan to get off the ship to get out of quarantine was how they get out.
Oh, yeah.
Like how they end up going through the wormhole.
Yes. No, that would have been great because it definitely would have explained more of like how like any of that went about. Like he's like, oh yeah, we can just take this. We'll go out this way.
Yeah, or I have a sneak exit or something. Yeah. They start up the ship and a guy comes to ask if the communication line is good. We see some prepping going on. They're all alluding to the experiment. And Longstreet is on a different ship now. He went to the other ship in the yard. So, like, he was on the first ship to do, like, some checks and stuff, and then he went to the other ship. Somebody pointed out, and somebody kind of asked this question of, like, why did they have to do this with a full crew? Why couldn't they have done this with only necessary crew? So, like, because it would have worked the same way. It felt like a lot of people are on this ship.
Because I feel like for any of these types of ships, you do need a full crew.
Well,
I get what you're saying. Like, honestly, did they need anybody out there? Because they could have literally just done it. Like, they could have put it in the middle.
Well, I would have understood if they needed somebody because what Jimmy and Dave are doing they're in like the engine room, which has this thing that starts the experiment. So I could see if it was like, well, we need somebody in there to operate that, to like pull the levers and shit.
Right.
But the rest of the crew is just sort of there.
Well, I guess because it is like a full-on, like, this has to work with all of these people. It has to work when we're fully operational. So maybe that's why?
Oh, maybe. I guess so. I would have almost have started with the slimmer crew, but I guess that's possible. Where it's like they needed to test to see if it was going to work with everyone there. I'll give you that one, Rachel. Points for you, movie. Also... Rachel defended you.
You're welcome. I like to do these things.
You're welcome.
I always defend weird plot lines. I go, well,
in sci-fi
this
movies.
is what I think.
Prepare for Rainbow 1, which I guess is what they're calling the experiment or something like that.
So immediately makes me think that they're doing something with a prism to actually, like, refract stuff.
Okay.
So that it can be, like, hidden.
That would make
I mean?
sense. Yeah.
That's all. That's all I had to say.
So anyway, Rachel, does Philadelphia Experiment have shelf life?
Anyways, but that's what I thought of, like, when I, the name of it.
All right. I did not even think about that. Okay. That's why you're here. That is Rachel's contribution.
It's like how, how in Marvel they use mirrors, and, well, they use different things. They used to use mirrors underneath so they could hide the ship in the sky, and you wouldn't be able to see S.H.I.E.L.D. It was, like, more mirrors and stuff, but now it's, like,
Is that from the comics?
That's from the comics. Now it's, like, gamma, or, like, little bots and stuff that, take a picture of what's above and, like, show it below, and, whatever. Yeah. It's the same idea. Bunch of screens showing the reflection. Fine.
Sure. The tension ratchets up, but it would probably be better if they explained what was going on a little bit. I don't need to know line for line what the experiment is, but a little bit to know what the stakes are probably would have helped the tension.
Because you're showing that there has to be some sort of stake, but I don't know what the stake is.
Yeah. Is it a ribeye? Is it a T-bone?
How did I knew that was coming? I knew that was coming. We talking medium rare here?
Oh, you gotta get a medium rare. I think I like a ribeye the most. If it's not a filet mignon, of course.
Wow. Yeah.
I like a lean cut, though. Dr. Longstreet comes into the radar room of the other ship, and they start the generators. There's a ton of tubes in this room, like light tubes, like light bulbs, I think. That's what they look like. They look like a bunch of, like, test tubes and light bulbs.
Well, maybe that was just their way of making it look more like science.
Sci-fi. Yes, absolutely. I'm just saying, like, to describe this room, like, the one has, like, a generator engine that's, like, doing, like, a collider type thing where it's, like, spinning real fast like a magnet. And the room that Jimmy and David are in just has levers for them to pull and a ton of these, like, light tubes.
Yes.
A radar dish goes off, and it creates this terrible-looking effect. On the Eldridge, they all start to glow into these different colors. It kind of is... It's just like this effect that you can probably do in Zoom and Teams and stuff now, of just, like, color grades them to look like Tron characters, and distorts the background. I don't know what the exact...
Oh, they're totally just hitting them with radiation. Everybody's getting, like,
everyone
just shot
cancer.
With gamma
they
rays.
All have cancer.
Oh, yeah. And if not, they're
all
going to turn
the
the Hulk.
Yeah, a lot of
the Hulk
Hulks
family.
Are on board. Yeah. Oh, the whole Hulk family is on board.
Oh, absolutely.
There's definitely a thing is there. A rock monster for sure is there.
For sure.
Somebody's getting... Yeah, somebody's merging with
melting.
the ship. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're getting a melty man. Definitely, an incredible melting man is coming out of this thing. A whole spunk of stuff. I don't know the name of what this visual effect is called, but folks
honestly,
at home let me know what it is.
They probably could make a comic book. They could make a comic book where the Philadelphia Experiment happens, and they 100%. Are all like mutants and superheroes, and like half of them died because of the experiment, but the other half become like mutants and superheroes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, The Boys is essentially just Nazi science made superheroes. That's the premise. So, I mean, Captain America is that. Like, that is the premise of Marvel. Right. So it is, like, you could easily just do it where, like, here's this other...
This is another way that they...
Yeah, they experimented to try to get their super
And they
soldiers.
Accidentally made, like, fancy people.
Fancy people. Not meta-humans or superheroes. Fancy people.
I don't know what I meant by that.
Rachel's favorite genre of movies are fancy people, like the Avengers and Batman. That's going on a shirt. I don't know exactly what it's going to say yet, but fancy people... I don't even know
what it means.
It's fancy people is going. It's going to be a silhouette of the Avengers, and it just says fancy people in the Avengers font.
Oh my god.
Or the
just
Justice
fancy.
League. They're just fancy people, that's all. Eventually, the ship disappears, and it is radar invisible. So, in the radar room, they're seeing it as radar invisible, which that was the goal, right? Is to make it so that the ship is not visible to other ships. And they even say, like, okay, this is going to take the German fleet completely out of the war, because if they can't see our ships, we can attack them and they're without warning. The engine thing is spinning, and James and David are saying that it's getting spooky in here now. Which, I don't know what was getting spooky about it, other than just, it was, like, kind of, like, the sound and the fact that, like, the color grade... Like, I think it's because the color grading is deteriorating, and
I think
they
can see
that
the color is... Yeah. It's like, I don't know what's happening. I'm being shot with radiation that's actually visible. That's kind of scary.
Man. I didn't know that they were gonna shoot this shit at us, Jimmy.
I thought this was on the ship, not the people.
I can feel my nuts going back into my body. I don't know what's going on. It's also smoky on deck. And then the
stuff
ship...
is starting to, like, spark and, you know, because of the electricity that's going through. It's like, it's zapping.
Yeah, there's sparks and stuff. Things start to light on fire. And the ship completely disappears itself. It, like, completely disappears. And that's when, in the radar room, they're like, Dr. Longstreet, we can't see it anymore. And he's like, what do you mean you can't see it anymore? And they're like, it's not here. It's, like, physically not here. So he goes back up on deck, on the poop deck, and sees that there's nothing there. So he, like, freaks out. He's like, turn it off! Turn it off! Because they can't make contact. They're like, well, we can't make contact. And for some reason, they can only do the experiment. Like, there's no, like, fail-safe on this boat. They could only turn it off from the other boat.
Which, why wasn't there a scientist who knew
that they needed, if something
to do
goes
that,
wrong,
if something
to turn
went
it off?
wrong?
Yeah. Like the mustachioed
like, you just have these
assistant.
two Navy guys who are like, well, something seems to be going wrong. I think I'm going to pull the lever, but they don't know if it's going wrong. They just think it is because there's sparks flying. So they're like, maybe we should turn this off. And that's when he gets electrocuted. Mm-hmm. And his whole hand glows.
Yeah, he tries to grab it, his hand glows, he gets electrocuted, Jimmy does. And yeah, you're right, like, the mustachioed assistant should have been on board of the Eldridge to stop this from happening, because he could have shut it down or whatever.
Somebody should have, even if he put his intern out there. Like, he could be over here watching the numbers, and the intern could be out
I don't
there
remember
and go,
what
this
sequence
happens.
to shut down.
Right.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to Dr. Longstreet. So the colors are distorting, the stuff is blowing up, fires are starting, and then Jimmy and Dave exit the engine room. Jimmy's hand was electrocuted or zapped or whatever.
And they decide to abandon ship.
It's impossible to tell really what's going on because of the color distortion. They jump overboard and they end up in the Doctor Who wormhole. They see the TARDIS, they see there's a DeLorean in there, all sorts of stuff. And then it comically takes them through space and they land in front of a giant green screen that's colored orange. So yeah, their plan, I guess, makes sense. Like, you think the ship is blowing up, so you just jump off of it.
Oh, yeah, of course. If you think everything is going wrong, like, abandon ship, that's it. Like, let it explode, everybody needs to leave. Mm. But nobody else does. Everybody's just, like, running around.
Stuck on there. They aren't sure what's going on, and they look up, and it's night, and a helicopter spots them. Jimmy screams because he's in pain. A shooting pain goes through his hand, I think.
Yeah.
And then they both start yelling. They make it almost seem like it's an alien chasing them for a minute. The way that this... I thought so. The way that this helicopter is kind of...
You did
that
say...
aliens were part... Yeah, aliens were... They tried to make it... Yeah,
little homage to that. You know, a little homage to the fact that they thought aliens helped them. It was just the future people. Because helicopter, not UFO. Yeah.
That's right. This helicopter starts firing upon them. I was... All right, so, like, they shoot first, ask questions later,
Everything
apparently.
in this is shoot first, ask questions later. Everything about this thing.
And then I was like, okay, maybe they're in, like, the dystopian future or something. Like, maybe this thing sent them to a different timeline.
Like, where World War II, we didn't win?
Yes, which, spoiler alert for Philadelphia Experiment 2. Yeah.
Really? I haven't
they come
listened to that one
across
in a long time, apparently.
They come across an electrified fence, and then
So yeah, they must be in a restricted area, right? Like a government restricted area.
Yeah, well, we find out they are. They are behind
Okay.
a government restricted area. Jimmy is electrocuted again, and then a missile blows up the helicopter as they run away. The hell just happened?
I don't know.
Spoiler alert for the end of this movie. You never find out what blew up the helicopter.
I think it was his hand. I don't think it was a missile. I think it was the electricity going through him.
You think his hand did it?
Yes, because it happens later on. So when they're at the diner and his hand like shoots the electricity, I think that's what happens here. It has to be.
So he becomes like Dr. Doom and
Yes.
shoots shit out of it. Like he's Storm now. He has Jubilee/Storm powers.
Well, I think that's what happened. It was like being conducted when he hit the electric fence.
Okay. Maybe I just missed that because I thought like a missile came and hit it, and then I was like, what took down the helicopter? They never explained that. But it does make more sense if it was Jimmy's electro powers.
Yeah, the electro powers from, the gamma radiation on the ship, like
right, because he was holding the fence. Yeah, so okay.
Yeah.
All right. I will Your Honor, I'll allow it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm going to make this movie the best damn thing you've ever watched.
So that scene fades out. So what we end up learning is that, just to kind of wrap this up, is like they were behind a government fence or something. It's because the government was trying to do this experiment again in the 80s. And when they did it, it linked up the first time they did the experiment and this time that they did the experiment. It created a wormhole between the two times. So they fell out into this time, 1984, because it did a whatever.
Right. It took the entire town that they were
Yes,
doing it
this
in
time it took the entire
versus
town.
the ship. They
Yes.
made it 10 times worse.
Well, it's the 80s. We're thinking big.
Gotta think bigger.
Fade out to the desert, and Jimmy and Dave are walking aimlessly through it. They have their last cigarette, so at least they got that.
Well, they were trying to keep themselves warm by smoking.
Right, which I think does the opposite.
It does the opposite. It actually does the opposite. You might think you're warmer, but you're going to get hypothermia faster.
It's like a placebo. It's like a placebo.
It really is.
Jimmy thinks it's all part of the experiment. He thinks maybe it's all in their heads, it's a hallucination, or they were hypnotized or something. Because it feels like they were never told what the experiment was.
I don't think they were. I don't think they were privy to it. I think it was just, we just need you to do your thing here. It's the same with any type of government stuff. They're going to just tell you, I need you to flip this switch. I need you to press this button. I need you to input these numbers. But we're not going to tell you the full picture. Why would we do that? That causes a lot of security breaches and stuff.
Compartmentalize, Rachel. If you've watched Oppenheimer, you'd have heard all about that. Got to compartmentalize.
They need to be in the dark.
David does not believe that, though. He does not think that it's hallucination or anything. And he's like, it's the Navy. Like, they make mistakes all the time. They're stupid. So he's like, this is some sort of mistake. This, was not supposed to happen. But they don't really know. So they don't know where they are. They don't know when they are. They just know that they're in this, desert. And they decide to keep on walking. Jimmy sees water up ahead, and he's like, no, this is a desert, dumbass. It's a mirage. And it turns out that it is water. I was trying to figure out, what it is, because it's a beach. They're, walking alongside a beach.
Yeah,
and then we find out they're in Nevada, but I think it's, northern Nevada. So I'm like, what the hell are they?
I don't know, honestly. Is it a lake? Is it just a lake?
Or the Utah Salt Flats or something? I was like,
Could
what
be.
the hell is this?
I think the whole
maybe
idea
it is a lake. Maybe it is a lake.
I think the whole idea is this is the town, though, that was taken into the sky.
Oh.
So it, turned it into this weird water desert.
Okay.
Because everything was sucked up into the wormhole.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? It has to be that.
Maybe.
And that was
Maybe.
a lake, but the lake is was sucked in too, so it's just desert, quote unquote.
Maybe. Because something is weird about this. I can't remember which scene it is, but I did read in the trivia that, because they did some of the filming in Utah for it, the director looked at, this town needed money to, be able to put up, a new buildings, and they were, trying to do, a renovation project or something. So actually Raffle had them do that. He was like, oh, well, we can actually help with this because we have a scene where we're like burning down the town or whatever, which so like must be the end. And he was like, we'll make that part of the production, so like we'll pay for it, help remodel this town and stuff. So that was kind of nice.
Huh, yeah, there you go. Kind of fun.
Yeah, Jimmy's making fun of David for thinking it was a mirage because it clearly was not. He says like, how much longer do you think this mirage is gonna last?
Right.
They stumble upon a Lowenbrow beer.
What is it?
Some sort of beer. German.
Hey! Coca-Cola! Oh, it's so light. What the hell's it made of?
Oh, I know.
Because they're like, it's German. Oh no, because like they think like
yes,
were we transported
it's all
to
the
Germany?
allusion to it, right?
Yeah. And they're distraught for a second,
and
but
then
then
see
hey, a
Coca-Cola
Coke!
Can.
So they see a Coca-Cola can. That's gotta be American, right? Like there's nothing more American than fucking Coca-Cola. But they don't understand what an aluminum can is, so they're like, what the hell's it made out of? Like that should be like, oh crap, the Germans are trying to replicate our Coke with these inferior cans.
With these crazy cans.
They find a road eventually, and they see a car driving by, and they hide from it, which, I mean, wouldn't you? Because you don't know where you are.
And a truck. Like,
and then a semi-truck comes by.
Horrifying.
The semi-truck would be pretty scary. Like, they're able to identify, like, this rusted car on the side of the road, because they're like, looks like a Chevy.
Sure.
It being that rusted is probably, like, another hint, or, like, clue that, like, they're in the future.
Right.
But seeing a semi-truck without knowing what a semi-truck is...
I mean, I would think it's similar to the giant trucks that they were in, but I mean, at the same time, it's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
that
like
would be
this
still
thing's like
scary.
flying down the
like,
road.
This is, like, what the heck?
Suddenly we see a fighter jet looking at a quadrant.
Yes. So first it's a car, then it's a truck, and now it's a fighter jet just flying
Well, they
by.
don't see the fighter jet, but
they
like,
don't.
we cut to the fighter jet.
Yes.
And this is where we find out that they lost a whole town. It's a good enough way to uncover this plot as they go along. But like they don't come out right and say it. You kind of have to like you develop the understanding of what happened. Mm-hmm. I thought that was okay. They don't just say like, we were doing this experiment and we lost this town. Like the exposition is more like, hey, do you see anything? No, the town's still missing. Like they unveil it to you a little better.
It just feels like you're a part of it instead of somebody just like outright doing exposition.
Yes, exactly. Thank you for explaining what I was trying to say. So, no, I'm serious. I'm sorry if I sounded sarcastic. And then here's Stephen Tobolowsky. Oh, you guys. He's playing Barney the scientist. Rachel, this is the guy that you recognized, right?
Yes, of course.
This might be our first appearance of Stephen Tobolowsky. It's not going to be the last. It's not going to be the last because of the fact that he's in literally everything. I'm surprised he wasn't in like Barbie or something. That feels like a movie that would have had him in it.
Yeah,
right?
He would have totally been in our Barbie. I'm surprised he wasn't, because he would have been like with the business side.
Yeah, he could have played like the second.
He
could
have
Will
been like,
Ferrell.
I'm making this Barbie.
I'm trying to
I work on the Ken side.
Barbie.
Yeah, you know, like he's working on the Ken side of
for
Barbie.
Bald people or something. Yeah,
no, it's like it's the one man Barbie that like is one of the girls. It's that one. What's his name?
Alan.
Glenn. Alan.
Oh yeah, I was the creator of Alan or something.
Yes,
yeah.
like he works on the Alan dolls.
Yeah. Come on, Greta Gerwig. Go back and go through the wormhole. Put Tobolowsky in your movie. God damn it! Then it would have won one of those Oscars. Stephen Tobolowsky he has 289 credits. Because he is literally
Does he do voice acting
everything.
too, or is it just his face? Like, literally him?
Yes, he does.
He just does stuff.
This fucker is just in everything. He's a great character actor. So we'll see him a million times, because he's obviously in a lot of stuff. He's playing Barney in this, the kind of like the assistant to Longstreet in the modern day. Some other character actor is also playing the old Longstreet. He looks
so familiar.
I recognized him.
He looks so familiar.
the older Longstreet is played by an actor named Eric Christmas. And when I looked it up, I saw that, oh, that's what we know him from? So he is in an episode of Seinfeld where he plays the curator for the old film institute that Kramer becomes friends with. I think that's the role he's in. So I was like, is that what I know him from? Which is very well possible. I mean, he died in 2000.
It's definitely possible, but he looks so familiar. He's got that old man face that I just feel like I know this man.
He has 135 acting credits, so he shows up in stuff every once in a while. Well, these guys back in the day, they just all over the place, you know? That's what I'm saying. He's like another character actor type guy. But he shows up here and there and stuff that that you've probably seen him in.
Right.
But yes, he's playing the old Dr. Longstreet. So Dr. Longstreet is back now 40 years later. This is where Tobo tells him that the whole town disappeared. There were no electro something or other. Some science babble here about what happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Longstreet tells them he doesn't want Washington involved yet. Something is there that wasn't there when they got here. So this major, the major is kind of a secondary character throughout this whole thing. And they are investigating the helicopter explosion. Right. But nothing, they're like, well, what could have gotten in here? And they're like, nothing can get past this perimeter, not even a jackrabbit. And then the sky starts to storm. It's like a visual effect. It looks like a tornado. It looks like a tornado or like a hurricane. There's almost like an eye of a hurricane.
Yes. Yeah. Let's make it bigger.
Yeah. The guys, meanwhile, stumble upon a little cafe gas station. This car pulls up that says they're in Nevada, and naturally some 80s punks get out, and it freaks them out, because 80s punks, oh my god. So they go into this diner. This diner, very 80s by way of 70s.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got the wood paneling all over the wall. It looks like a dirty, dirty roadside diner.
Yeah. It smells musty. I can tell.
Mm-hmm. But I do want to try the ham and eggs.
But it also smells like pancakes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's got like that diner eggs and pancakes. You're just like, I gotta eat this. That greasy, coffee, that's probably actually really good.
Mm-hmm. That breakfast you're gonna shit your pants. There better be a bathroom nearby.
It's so greasy.
Because there is so much
is
grease.
Smothered in grease. It's just lard. They're using lard and everything.
What can I do for you, honey? Put lard in everything. This lady has diner, wait voice, but I could
picture
Tress MacNeille doing the voice for The Simpsons. It's like that type of voice, right? Yes. There's a couple of arcade games in this diner too. And then they're a bit horrified because this 80s B movie is playing on the TV.
Oh my god, and there's just boobs.
On this TV. I was like, what? But these type of people, the diner patrons, they're not gonna be told what they can and cannot have on the television.
That's for damn sure.
So the waitress asks if they want ham and eggs. They get scrambled eggs. They're glad that she speaks English because that's like a good sign that they're in
not
Nevada,
German, right?
Yeah, and they're not speaking German or Japanese. So at least that's established. So at the very most, we are in the Man in the High Castle universe, where they still were allowed to keep speaking the language. But,
yes, and luckily Jim also has money in his pocket, because how are they going to pay for these eggs,
They ask where they are. She tells them Scotty's Junction. And they're like, okay, well, what state are we in? And they're like, you don't know what state you're in? And I was like, because they asked, is there a Navy base? And she's like, I don't think so. And I was thinking, a landlocked state for the Navy base? I guess they would do that for different trainings and stuff like that. But, there's probably not a ton.
Right.
So David's like, I'm going to go try and call
for this experiment, I think that he also probably just wanted to get away from people, and he was just going out in the middle of nowhere.
It's a Los Alamos type of experiment, right? We're going to go in the middle of this little know-nothing town, and we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Especially after what happened last time. David decides he's going to go try and call the base, and then a very 80s lady is on the phone, and she apparently lost her job. She's been driving all the way from Chicago.
She was supposed to get the job. She was driving for the job, and apparently this jackass is just like, well, you didn't respond. She's like, I've been driving.
Yeah, it felt like
then it's like, you can come live with me until you can find a job. I'm like, oh, this guy's gross. Immediately know this man is disgusting.
Yes, that's the vibe I got too, where it was like, did this guy meet her in Chicago? Because she says she's like an artist, right?
I think so.
So is it something where like he promised her a job, but it was just a way to try to like hook up with her?
I bet you anything. And so she quit her job and started driving, and yep. So poor woman, because got scammed by a skis bag.
This is, of course, being played by Nancy Allen, who, Rachel, you may recognize as Officer Lewis from Robocop. I kept putting my, like, I know who this woman is. It's not just because she looks like prototype 80s woman, because she does. She's got hair and
she does.
Denim. But it was like, I know who this person is, but it's not just because she's from the 80s. It's because she's Robocop's partner.
That makes sense.
He goes to make the call while she takes out the suitcase. I immediately was like, I'm guessing this is the love interest of the movie. She's got it written all over.
I mean, yeah. This is the meet cute area.
This is the meet cute.
This is what's happening. Mm-hmm.
He tries to explain to the operator who he's trying to get to. Outside, this guy is doing this sucking thing. Like, it's like, it is. It's like sucking stuff into it. Very Spaceballs. Suck.
Right.
Suck.
Anyways.
The bill comes, and it must be high because, of course, they're not, like, going to be ready to pay for a bill in 1984. Like, I wanted Jimmy to do a little, like, he does enough acting on it because he kind of looks like, oh, shit, when he sees the bill, but... I mean, it's still 1984, so it can't be, like, it's not a dime, but it's probably a couple of bucks.
But he's just like, wow, that's way more expensive than I thought it was going to be. Like,
yeah. His right hand starts to hurt and turn orange, and he gets up and he's, like, in pain, in, like, excruciating pain from it. And the arcade starts electrifying, because I guess it's like you're saying, where, like, the current goes through it and it starts blowing up the arcade machines.
Right. Because his hand is, like, conducting the electricity from that storm, because it's like an electrical storm, and then it's also attached to his hand. So when it was, like, doing stuff, his hand was pulsating with that power. With the lights were dimming, and then the arcades exploded, and the
mass hysteria
in the diner.
The owner pulls a gun on them
immediately.
Like, no asking, are you okay? What's going on?
No.
How did this happen?
Shoot first, ask later. That is what the entire byline of this movie should be.
Must be one of them damn mutants. I read about them in the comic books.
Yes.
So Jimmy leaves the place, and then David does this a couple of times.
Honestly, Jimmy could have been like, your damn machine just electrocuted me.
Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy's very timid, though. He's like a very, nebbish character.
Yeah.
Where I feel like he's never going to stand up for himself.
Right.
And then David does this a couple of times in the movie. He grabs the gun from them without a lot of problem. He just takes it right out of his hand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Just very easily. And then the slowest and clumsiest getaway I think I've ever seen in a movie.
Oh, my God. It is... It's embarrassing. Like, you're kind of cringing this whole time. I think it's supposed to be funny.
Yeah, I think you're supposed to think it's, like, kind of comical because they don't know what they're doing. But it's, like, it's so, like, slow. And all of the diner patrons, it's like, first of all, none of these guys has a gun other than the owner. It's kind of hard to believe that.
Very hard to believe.
But they can't figure out how to get the car to start. Then the woman's like, you're not taking my car. And then they're like,
this is everything I have. Like, I guess here's the key. And then they're trying to get it started. And then they're like, okay, well, how about you drive the car? So you get in. And she was like trying to get her stuff out of the trunk. This whole thing, it was, and he's like, wait, I'll get your bag. So then he puts the bag in. I'm like, can we not? Can we?
Yeah. I think you're right.
I mean, what would have been better is he turns to her and goes, I need you, like, get in the car. You're going to drive, like, immediately.
Yeah, but I think you're right. I think they were trying to make it funny because of like how bumbling they were, because they're not criminals.
Because
so
they're
they don't
not
know how
from
to,
here. They're
they don't know
not
how
criminals.
to kidnap someone. So it was like 19.
And they weren't even trying to kidnap her. It was more so we just want to leave because we're not welcome here
what
now.
could have worked? One, if the dialogue was snappier, if the actor playing it, and maybe they should have had Jimmy doing this because he could have probably pulled what I'm about to say off more than David.
Yeah.
If he would have kept saying, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry," like
Look,
19,
I'm sorry.
like use the 1940s like idea of like a Steve
calling her
Rogers.
ma'am. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
But here, I'll get your bag. Okay, I'm sorry, ma'am. Okay, here.
And make it go
Yes.
quick. It goes so slow that it makes it awkward.
It's just so awkward.
Yeah. But in any event, it's just this very amateur kidnapping. And then they start driving along, or she starts driving along. They look at his hand, which I think it's supposed to look rotten a bit, because
I think it's singed. I think the idea is that it looks burnt, like when something gets electrocuted and it burns. It's that.
Okay.
It's the electricity.
They ask for the year, and she says 1984. She asks if they're on drugs, and they're like, "Well, what about the war?" And she's like, "Vietnam?" And they're like, "No, World War II. Who won?"
She was like, "What about it?"
Would they have
like,
called it?
What do you mean?
Yeah, would they have called it World War II during World War II?
What did they call it? Because the first one was the Great War.
Yeah. Hang on. I want to look this up. Well, according to this,
Second World War in 1941. That's when they labeled it that.
Time magazine called it World War II in 1939. The phrase Second World War appeared in Political Science Quarterly in 1942. Or 41,
Oh,
there you go.
Roosevelt says 94, like he did that.
Okay. So I guess they were calling it World War II during World War II.
It feels like they would have said something different, but yeah.
It was called the Second World War in America. The Soviet
I think it's just because we're thinking of the Great War.
Patriotic War. Yeah. Well, because you wouldn't necessarily know if you were going to consider
immediately
it a world
say
war.
That.
Yeah.
I think at that point, though, it was. I think that's the whole idea.
So she says, "We won. Who do you think?" So they're like at least put at ease by that, because then they're like, "Yeah, you got any cigarettes?"
Look at each other and goes, "Oh."
Yeah. I thought we were gonna lose this. I didn't think America was winning this thing at all. Wasn't a chance in hell. That's a surprising fact. I was ready. Listen, lady, I was ready to zig Heil pretty quickly if anybody would have done it. I was ready to kowtow to those Nazis.
No, I think they were happy. I think it was like good, like, thank God we did. I think less than I'm surprised.
No, I they asked for cigarettes, and luckily for them, they didn't go to the year 2024 or future, because they would have not been able to find them.
Excuse me, but this woman also stopped smoking months ago.
That's true.
So she didn't have cigarettes.
They find them, though. Like, it's still the mid-80s,
of course they
they
do.
can find them. And, like, I don't know, guys. You're wanted criminals at this point. She is taking this in stride being kidnapped, and they're taking this in stride being 40 years into the future. So it's a little, like, awkward of, like, how
they're
at
in
ease
shock.
they are.
I don't think they're at ease at all. I think they're in shock.
I feel like these actors
literally
don't
and
portray
figuratively.
it that well. Yeah. Oh, hey.
Hey.
We get a long establishment of a helicopter landing at a base, probably because they could film it, so they did, and they kept it all in. A guy goes down to a monitor area to find Longstreet. This is the major, I think. And it's a monitoring area that is clearly made to look bigger because camera budget tricks here, because there's clearly like a podium, and then they just cut the film and they put it behind the podium to make it look like there's a big radar room back there. But it's not perfectly sized. Do you know what I'm saying? It looks like they didn't fit it right, so it almost comes to a point. It looks like this room comes to a point.
Maybe it does.
Maybe it does.
Maybe
I
it
don't
does.
know. Maybe that's the look they're going for to make it kind of sci-fi.
It's a little sci-fi weird point,
Yeah.
you know? You gotta do that sometimes. Weird shaped rooms.
We see footage of the town disappearing, and they're talking about what's going on. The fronts, like weather fronts, are being sucked into the atmosphere by this wormhole. Literally, it's sucking up storms and stuff.
Right.
You think that would wreak havoc on weather?
Oh my god, everything.
The tides,
Oh, absolutely.
everything. The ecosystem would be, like, dying if
Yes.
the weather fronts were being sucked into the atmosphere.
I agree. I feel like they aren't making this as big of a deal as they should be.
Yes, even at the end of the movie when they're like, yes, you have to save the world. Like, that's the tone that they give to it.
Yeah, you know, if you go up there, you could probably save the world.
You could probably save the world
because
if you go up there.
it's a wormhole. You know,
Yeah,
everything
it's
is going to
sucking
cease to exist
You don't really
if
know what's
you
going
know.
to happen.
Yeah, but
Great.
I mean, you could help us. You know, that'd be great.
That'd be really
thanks.
great if you could do that.
Cool.
They were talking about so there was a security break, 2 men, so now everyone's on alert. Longstreet goes into his office and thinks, and he looks at a photo of the thing that the major said wasn't there before, like a big pole.
Yes. Right.
Which the one guy identified, he was like, it's made of some sort of steel that he hadn't seen in 30 years. And then he
Yes.
pulls out a top secret file of the USS Eldridge, and he compares them, and he thinks that
I just like to have my filing system of all the top secret stuff right
That's
there
right.
at the ready. Yeah.
Maybe he has a lock on. I mean, he's he's a very important scientist, man.
Yeah,
He's
fine,
probably a key to his office or something. I don't know. You know.
It also says Philadelphia Experiment on the file, the folder.
Did it really? I did not see
Yes.
that.
So on the front it says top secret, but on the back it says
Oh.
Philadelphia Experiment.
There you go. And you're kind of right. Like, by 1984, you're putting this on some microfilm or something. Maybe not just like a folder. He compares the pictures, and he thinks part of the ship was found at the helicopter site, and he's starting to put stuff together here. Meanwhile, our gang drives into a snowy area.
How many times do you think they did this experiment? You think this is the only time they did this experiment? Do you think it's going to come up again? He's like, oh my god, what have I done? I have done this experiment dozens of times now throughout my life.
Well, I mean,
I'm destroying the world and time itself.
They make it seem like this was the second time. Like, this was, like, they're retrying this. However, I guess you could say, like, oh yeah, we just kept ripping enough holes in space-time that now it just kept getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're in the mountains of Nevada because of the snow.
Yeah,
like,
probably.
Is that the area that they're in here? Like the Sierra
Must
Mountains.
be.
Jimmy fell asleep, and then they see a highway, and she says, maybe we should go to a hospital. And they're like, no, we can't go to a hospital. We're in the future. They're definitely going to do experiments on us. Mm-hmm. They just want to get home to California. So they're like, maybe we can just go home to California and we can, like, go to a doctor there instead.
Yeah, like, what's that gonna do? But okay.
His hand goes again, though, because lightning starts striking, and then lightning strikes the car, which sparks the car, it electrifies them, and then they kind of, like, get into a crash because a cop car tries to stop them, and they, like, flip the car. Almost comically, this car gets flipped.
Oh my god.
Like, the action in this movie consists a lot of car flipping, which is always fun for the 80s action movies. Yeah, this car flips, like, 5 times down this, like, ravine, and then they're, like, all fine. Nothing's wrong with them except for Jimmy.
Which is nuts, because none of them were wearing seatbelts. Not one of them had a seatbelt on, alright?
Well, you know, those 1980 cars, Rachel, they were made out of, like, solid steel, you know?
It's true. I don't think it was lightning that hit them, though.
You think it was just the spark
I think it was
his hand?
So they were going underneath power lines at the time, and I think
you
it was again...
you noticed all this. I did not notice the connections here.
Yeah, well, because he has that connection to all the electricity, because he touched the machine as it was happening. So I think that's what happened. But I still think it is like a connection to the storm. So like when the storm kind of revs up or what it does whatever it's doing, I think it causes his hand to also like hum and do its thing, and then it like causes all the electrical like connections through wherever he's at to occur.
I think you're right. I think that is what's... No, I think that's right. I did not notice. I, for some reason, thought it was the...
I mean, it makes sense because it looks like a giant thing of lightning hitting it, but I think it was actually going like up, or like it was a connection between him and the power lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
A bunch of coppers stop them, and they end up going to the hospital. They go to examine Allison. Allison is the name of this girl. I can't remember who said her name yet, but her name is Allison.
Oh, yes, this is Allison.
Jimmy is on the stretcher, and he's kind of like convulsing and stuff. And she wants to know what will happen to them as they do examinations. And a cop comes in because they're like, she must have hurt her arm or something. And so they're like checking her arm out.
Sure.
And the cop is
the car flipped, so
yeah.
She might have got a fracture, hairline
concussion,
fracture.
She's dead, anything. But the cop says that they're going to get 9 to 12 years for kidnapping and
which, my God,
assault with a deadly weapon and all this stuff.
Sure.
Yeah. A doctor comes in and asks if they came into contact with any sort of radiation. And she's like, why? And he's like, well,
at the same time of getting an x-ray where a woman was just eating next to it, and they're all just standing around her while the x-ray occurs. I know it's the 80s, but...
Well, it's the 80s, so you'd think that an x-ray would be a lot more potent at nowadays, you might be able to get away with, hey, don't stand directly in front of the x-ray, and you might be okay. But, yeah, this is not
lead
exactly
suits,
yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Allison tells them that the car lit up before they hit the barricade, but she's not really sure. They could have been exposed to radiation. She doesn't know.
Sure.
And the doctor's like, well, we don't know what happened, and his friend won't talk. So Dave refuses to talk. This is where I was like, is this a noir all of a sudden?
Yes.
Because there's a scene.
When he's in the cell.
I didn't know where he was. So I figured out it was a cell after a couple of minutes because there's graffiti behind him.
Yes.
So Dave is somewhere where this woman is filing her nails. And I was like, what is going on now? Is this a holding cell?
Oh, that's exactly.
Sort of
I was thinking of that too. I was like, I couldn't tell. Is she a secretary in the room, or is
she a detective?
Yeah, is she sitting behind a desk? But then I was like, no, they're in the same room together. They're in the same room together. And then I was like, why would they be in the holding cell together?
Well, because I thought, she lights a cigarette up. And I was like, okay, so it is a noir.
Again,
it's
these damn
it is
cigarettes.
The most noir shot. It's a noir shot of the femme fatale coming to talk to the detective.
Yes.
And then it backs out, and it's like a trans person drag queen, and that's the gag. That's
the gag.
Yeah, that's a trans person. I couldn't tell if they were trying to say I assume that this person did not get arrested for being a drag queen. I assume they got arrested for prostitution or something.
I would assume it's from prostitution.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it was for prostitution, and they're just both being held together.
Yeah.
I did question
it's
it.
The 80s.
Why are they together? And then I was like, oh, okay. I get it. It's the 80s.
It's the 80s, and still some people think all drag queens are prostitutes. That just goes with it's the 80s. That's how we think.
It's the 80s. Yeah.
Fairly progressive of this movie though, because
he doesn't care.
She offers him a cigarette, and he's like, yeah, sure, because he's just been dying for this fucking cigarette, of course.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And then he's like, why are you dressed like that? And she's like, do you like it? And he just kind of smiles and laughs for a second, and then the cops come to get him. So he doesn't call this person a
he
name.
He was probably
or
like,
anything.
well, it looks nice.
He's just like, it's the future, I guess. That's
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, it was just a very odd scene in there because I was like, did the movie change? Is this a character?
There was so much.
Now?
It was very dramatic. It was just so dramatic. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah. Folks at home, if you haven't watched the movie, maybe this clip is on YouTube or something. If you find this clip, it's just the tone is so different than the rest of the movie.
Yes.
It's interesting. So the cops tell him that she isn't going to press... Oh, this is when we learn her name is Allison. So no wonder that I didn't say what her name was yet because we don't know until now. So she won't press any charges, I guess because she feels kind of bad for them because she thinks they're crazy or she thinks they're lost or something.
I think she realized they were good guys through their conversation.
Question mark?
Yeah.
They want to know why she won't press charges.
Because they knew that because they just kept saying, we need you to get to the Navy base. We need you to drive us to the Navy base. So maybe she's just like, well, are they just lost and confused? I don't know.
Did they just seem genuine? Because they actually ask her why she won't press charges, which I don't know if I'm sure police do this. And if we have any police listening, let me know if you are allowed to do this or if you have to do it in that winky way. Because it's are you allowed to ask a victim if why they won't press charges? Don't you have to kind of be okay?
Okay.
I don't know if you're allowed
also trying to say I think it is kind of one of those things where it's are you sure you don't want to press charges? Like,
yes,
are
I'm
they
sure
telling
can
you,
ask that.
did they do
Were you
something to
coerced
you?
into this? Yes,
Right.
yes.
So I think that's where it was, like, leading to, but at the same time, it just came off as, like, why aren't you doing this? They deserve it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it sounded like.
Yeah. So Dave goes free.
I mean, also, the other guy is the one who pulled a gun on them first, and they were, and he just handed
Also
it
true.
over to
well,
him.
but they thought that they faced property and stole, I guess, was the problem.
I guess.
Yeah.
There's a lot of... There's so many layers.
Allison won't press charges, and the old people won't come up from their diner because they're like, we can't lose any business. So they're like, okay, well, then we have to drop any charge because nobody's here to witness this.
Right.
A second good luck line in 2 minutes because the drag queen in the cell
Yes. She says
tells she says
how did
good
she know
luck.
he was a sailor too is my question.
Maybe they were talking,
Good luck, sailor. It was like, huh?
or it's just a thing to say, I guess.
I
But
guess.
maybe they were talking, or it just so happens, or maybe it looks enough like a Navy uniform to say it. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, he doesn't have, like, his name or anything on it, so I just was, like, curious.
And then the cops say good luck to them because they're like, all right, good luck. Like, you were going to leave you with
Right.
this psychopath anyway, or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is actually where we get the full names, where we get Allison Hayes is the girl, David Herding is the guy. And then a storm is brewing. As Jimmy is in the hospital and they go to see him, he's in really bad shape, though. He thinks he sees Pam. He thinks Allison is Pam, I think is supposed to be what it is. Like, oh, you brought Pam? Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, buddy, we're in 1984 for some reason. And he's like, oh, the baby's coming soon, and it's going to be a boy and all this stuff. There's a rumble, because I think every time there's lightning, it gets to him. So, like, he freaks out again, and he starts having a seizure.
Yes.
And it's kind of creepy.
It's horrifying, honestly. That's, like, scary. Because it's like, oh, he's having a full-on, like, seizure from this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Allison
surprised
says,
he, like, oof. I
Well,
expect him to die.
Spoiler alerts, Rachel. Allison tells David that they can't help him if David won't tell them what happened. So David starts to just tell the doctor about everything. So, like, we go to another scene of David just explaining to the doctor. He's like, yeah, we were on this thing. They were doing this electronic radar experiment. I got caught up in this freak thing, and I guess we got moved through time or whatever. And
Right.
It's a in a better movie, or like a better directed movie or better acted movie. I don't really know how to phrase this, or like what's missing here.
Right.
There would have been a pause, and the doctor could have made like a okay. Like,
Yes.
like it needed something.
Maybe it just needed that.
I'm not saying underscore the tension or like take away from the tension. I'm saying you can make a moment to break the tension a bit because of the tone and because of the situation. You could have done something with it. But again, this movie has no joy at all.
No.
So it's like very matter of fact, this is what happened. And then the doctor's like, and asking you more questions, and they're like, well, okay, well, you don't believe me. And he's like, well, I don't know if I believe you or not. It's almost very clinical how they talk. Which I guess makes it more...
Do I need to get the psych ward? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I guess that makes it more realistic to a point, but it takes some of the potential fun out of it.
I feel like realistically they would humor him just to get more information out of him, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think they would just be like, all right, crazy. Like,
well, you'd think that he has like something that would be like a naval card, some sort of identification that he could have shown or something like that. Like even in World War II, dog tag, something.
Yeah, that's why I was surprised. Like his uniform didn't have his name. They don't have anything like that identifies them. That just seems odd.
A number? The uniform doesn't have a number on it.
Yeah.
So now he's trying to explain time travel to this random doctor. And they think he's crazy or something. Mm-hmm. And I do like the line. This is a very good line, actually.
This time, it's not ours. We weren't here when it happened. The experiment took place on a ship in the Philadelphia harbor. It was 1943, October.
Code blue to Nero Room B5.
Does this sound crazy? Or is this sort of thing possible now?
Because he's like, I don't know.
Right.
Like, is time travel just a
Because it's the
thing
future.
now?
I don't
Can
even
you just
know.
send us to the past? That's fine. I don't care.
Right. He just wants to go home.
The doctor wants him to describe something from 1943, and David's like, starts being mad because he thinks, oh, you don't believe me. I was hoping it was more like, no, I want you to just describe like something from 1943, and then the doctor would be like, I remember 1943, so like I can, I'm trying to remember it the way that you describe it or something like that.
Right. Because you're not young, or you're too young to have lived in 1943.
Right. But this guy would have been old enough to be around in 1943.
Right. So if he says something that's like really specific and it's not something that like is well,
yeah,
it's one of those things. I wonder.
Right.
So maybe he was kind of like going along
Testing
with it
him.
and trying to believe him.
I think he was trying to like test him on it. Yeah. While they're doing this, though, a nurse walks in. She says that this patient B has a problem, which clearly, like David was clearly patient A, and he was patient B or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, this is Jimmy. So they just follow him. Yeah, they just follow the doctor, which you think that they would have like not let him in, but I guess like what are they gonna do? So they just walk right in, and Jimmy's having more seizures. Lightning's blowing in at him again. And then it like takes out the window. This looks like a scene from like a possession movie. Like he looks possessed. It really
almost dies. It's true.
The window starts blowing. He starts lighting up, and then David's hand turns blue
Machines
for
are
a
exploding.
second. Yeah, everything like just craziness is happening. That distortion, that color distortion, is happening again.
Right.
And then Jimmy disappears. He just vanishes.
He vanishes. He gets sucked in.
I guess that's what's happening. Like it's almost like he gets raptured. They could have all thought that this like was like a religious experience of seeing somebody get raptured.
Honestly, it does seem that way. It really does seem that way. I think it's one of those things where the world is trying to write it, like the universe is trying to write itself, like and grab him back, like into the right time.
Yeah,
it's trying to put things proper. So I think that's what happened, and because he had the bigger connection to it than
because of the hand. Yeah,
David?
He was still connected.
Yeah.
He was still connected to the wormhole. Yeah,
because he was more connected to the machine when it happened.
David freaks out looking at his hand, and then a bunch of Navy guys or Army guys or somebody come looking for him.
Yes, well, it's our general guy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the major. So they come in. They're looking. They're either looking.
I know nothing about levels in any of the anything. I know nothing.
General's
so
the
I
highest.
apologize. I apologize if I get it wrong.
So a bunch of these guys come looking for him, or they're looking for E.T. I can't really tell, but they're looking for one or the other.
I mean, if the camera was lower, I would believe it's E.T.
Yep, E.T. probably could have gone through that wormhole. It's possible.
Absolutely.
You know, the way that they come to get me is to go through this wormhole, but it does open
faster.
Up either in 1982 or in 1943 Philadelphia. We never know which one it's gonna be. We can get plants either way, so we don't really care. But it's one or the other. Chase ensues throughout the hospital. Speaking of Captain America, he goes into this elevator.
Yes.
And one guy gets into the elevator with him. And it's very awkward. Like, he goes into the elevator, and then one guy kind of sneaks into the elevator, but then the elevator doors close, and I was like, that
and they just kind of stand there.
Yeah, like there's something wrong with the timing of the editing on that, because then they're just kind of standing there, and I'm like, that was weird, the way that was framed. But then he just goes up an elevator, and the tension rises as there's this officer that won't let him get off of the elevator. And I was like, he's going to go full Steve Rogers, isn't he? And then sure enough, he does, because they start fighting in the elevator, but it's more of a tussle than a fight.
It's just a tussle.
It's just a tussle.
There's a woman in there with her baby. There's another
some
nurse.
Orderly,
there's a doctor. There's a guy with a sample that just splatters everywhere. And I'm just like, I don't know what that was. What was in that jar?
Piss, probably.
There's gonna be a lot of issues going on.
Got piss all over my baby. Yeah, but a full Steve Rogers elevator fight. And then I was thinking, did the Russo brothers watch Philadelphia Experiment? And they were like, guy from the 40s, elevator fight. Seems like a thing we should do.
So, I'm confused.
Okay.
Right?
Rachel is
confused.
Something. This is a new segment on Shelf Life called Rachel is Confused.
First, he wants to contact the government. And he wants to get to the base.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And then
the government finds him, and he starts
instead
running.
of talking to them, he runs away. And then they, like, want to fight him, and, like, they want to arrest him, they want to, like, shoot him. And there's a... I'm like, so then my brain goes...
Yeah, you're right.
Did I miss something? Are they just like, all right, this happened, we know what happened, we're trying to fix the wormhole, we need to kill this guy because he knows too much. I'm like, is that what's happening right now?
No. Because the entire time Longstreet is like, you need to find these guys, but I guess they're just stupid because they are just shoot to killing at him.
They shoot to killing.
They're not shooting at him in the hospital yet. But
not yet.
Later on in this fight scene, they are shooting at him.
Right.
But
like,
I don't know. I guess you could argue that the hand turning orange freaked him out, and that's why he does. But Jimmy
his friend's hand was doing it too. Like, you'd think you'd really want to talk to them now and be like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, that's kind of a problem, isn't it? That he, I guess. I guess
he's acting like a fugitive all of a sudden. Like he is.
I guess
like...
you just kind of get cold feet because you're like, oh, they're gonna do experiments on me or something. I don't know, because he does tell the doctor.
Yes.
So yeah, that's interesting. He tassels away and gets out of the hospital. He runs across traffic. This is where people start shooting at him, which is like, don't you want him alive? Don't you want to figure out what the fuck happened here?
This is my point. I'm so confused.
Then he almost superhumanly bursts through this door, like through this glass.
What is this?
He ends up in this fancy restaurant. I think he's in
on, like,
a
the second
hotel
story or something.
Yeah. I don't know how the hell he got up there.
He must have climbed a ladder first? I don't know.
This is an interesting chase, as it isn't the best choreographed or cinematic, but I get what they're going for.
Yes.
And, like, the score even has a little hint of the Winter Soldier theme in it. Just a little hint of it. Like, I was picking up these little vibes. But it's a very weird chase because of the fact that it's like...
it's so odd.
It goes on for a while, too.
Yeah, it's not as bad. It's not as bad as...
It is not as bad as Gymkata. No.
Gymkata.
That Gymkata chase that goes on forever, that is not what happens here. It doesn't go on forever.
No.
It's just kind of...
because Pam comes for him. Not Pam. What's her name?
Allison. Pam is the wife. Yeah. I mean, you got the name right.
I got a name.
Allison is driving around looking for him. She honks at the Navy.
Yes.
To get out of the way.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's like, stop her! What the fuck are you doing? They're just chasing after this guy, and then tells him to get in, and he does.
On foot.
On foot, yeah. I'm like, this Navy is fucking incompetent. They're shooting at this guy. They can't chase him down. They didn't bring anything to, like, barricade him in. And then they just drive away.
Yep.
So she asks what's going on. He's like, let's just get to Santa Paula. So she was like, well, I was going... Like, they just start talking again. So she's like, yeah, well, I was going to L.A. anyway. And
yeah, what... Okay.
But you were going to L.A. You don't have a job anymore. I don't... It's it's like they needed to be forced
she has nothing better to do, honestly, I think is what it is. And she's like, it's hot and I have nothing better to do.
That's what it is.
But you'd think he's crazy. Like, there's a lot of red flags.
Yes.
Anyways.
Back at the army base, the storm is getting worse. The colors are going a little wacky. Like, it's not doing the thing that it did during the experiment, but they're using filter on the film or something to make it look dark or make it look more red and stuff. So it's like, it looks eerier.
Yes, definitely.
So they're saying, like, they opened a wormhole and it stayed open and now it's sucking air in. So we learn a little bit more about that, but we've kind of gone over a lot of that. Meanwhile, Allison and David stay at a Best Western somehow.
Well, she has money.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Put it
But
on her
she says she hid the car and they're gonna rent a car in the morning so that they're using a different car.
That's what you mean. Okay.
You'd think they'd have to Terminator this. And yes, Terminator was the same year. Almost even more so than Terminator. Like, Terminator, they're running from the Terminator.
Right.
And this, you're running from, like, the government. So you
government.
gotta be a little more... Like, I thought she even walks in with, like, carrying groceries, like, in Terminator. It's kind of it's kind of eerily similar, the hotel scenes.
I mean, it
Obviously,
also kind of reminds me of the Hulk when they're also
it's
now
kind
on
of
the run,
also in the Hulk,
and she
yeah.
comes in with like the groceries,
Yeah.
and she didn't use a card, and this is what she could get with the money.
You're
and
right, yeah. This is a trope. This is definitely a trope.
It is definitely a trope. Mm-hmm.
David is flipping through the news. He catches a computer commercial. He sees the future of television. And then Allison comes in. They got Chinese food. She's like, you good with Chinese food? And I was like, I doubt he's ever had Chinese food.
Probably
I kind
not.
of do not think. And this man from 1943, I don't know if his stomach can take Chinese food.
He'll just be in the bathroom. He'll be fine. He can
Just taking a shit, I'm fine.
he just eat some of the rice. It'll be okay.
I love Chinese food. Chinese food.
I love Chinese food.
Chinese restaurants out there, if you want to
I
sponsor
love
Shelf
Asian
Life,
food,
we'll
Japanese
take it.
food. Oh,
Yeah, anything.
so good.
I'm trying the Korean fried chicken this weekend.
Ooh.
Look forward to that.
Yeah.
So she hands him chopsticks, and I'm like, "Come on,
That has
Allison.
nothing to do with like the future. That's just
People
a
in
utensil.
people in 1984 couldn't use chopsticks, though. You think this guy from 1943 can use chopsticks?
So she believes him but doesn't believe him, or does she actually like full on believe him at this point?
I don't think
I
she
guess
completely
she saw Jimmy.
She saw
yes.
Jimmy disappear.
Right.
So
she
she's gotta
knows
believe something.
Alien crazy is happening.
I don't think she fully believes him until they get to California and she sees that picture of him.
Right. So she's just like here. Which again, he could have just been like, how about a fork? Like
It would have
why-
been. That could have been a good fish out of water moment, though, of him
like
trying
is
to
this
eat
our
with
new
the
utensils? Like
Yeah.
yeah, I guess.
Like, oh, did they
Future
get rid of
utensils?
forks? Yeah, did they get rid of spoons? Or yeah, that could have been a nice little moment. We don't get that.
No.
Again, filmmakers out there, if you want to
Guys.
remake something, the Philadelphia Experiment might be one to do.
It could actually be interesting. It could be kind of fun.
They're talking about how, well, do you like know anybody? And he's like, just my dad, and he was pretty old anyway, and all this stuff. And they're like, well, he never had a phone. And she's like, David, everyone has a phone. It's 1984. So they're like, let's try. So then she almost compulsively is like, I feel like she's just intrigued by him a little bit, and it's because
100%.
he's hot or something to her.
She's hot for him, and then he's just so interesting.
She's too
Eager?
She's too anxious to help. Yeah, too eager to help.
She's very eager to be
She
a part
calls-
of this.
She calls and asks the
She's
operator.
a walking red flag, honestly. This poor guy is stuck with her.
Can you explain yourself, Rachel? Why she's a walking red flag?
Because she just I don't know if she wants to fix him, if she's just obsessed with how weird he is.
He's psychotic, but I
must have him. Like, that's what it kind of feels like, and it's like, you're creeping me out a little bit, lady.
So she asks the operator for a John Hurt egg. They get to the Parker Ranch, and I was just like, it's kind of a funny scene because this is present, future, past, because it's like, we're watching this and we're like, they're using a rotary phone and all this stuff. So like to us, it looks very antiquated, and to Allison, it's the present, and to David, it's the future.
So, yes,
so like
right.
it's future, present, past.
It's true.
Or present, future, past. She gives to Dave, and it's Pam on the other line. So like somebody from this Parker Ranch actually picks up, and it's Pam, and he hangs up immediately because he's like, that's Jim's wife. I don't know what I would say. I can't do anything.
She
and
actually answered, and that's I think freaked him out.
And then he actually has a pretty good thought because he's like, what if it's a trap? Now, again, to your point, Rachel, I thought he wanted to talk to...
Yes! I don't...
It's a good thought, though. Like, it could be a trap.
It could be a trap. Honestly, I probably would have thought the same thing, because if I'm, like, trying to stay away from them, you don't go to people you know. But, at the same time, they don't know who you are. They don't know who your friend is. They don't know who your friends are. Right?
Right, they don't know who you are.
They don't know who you are. You don't exist.
Yeah. No, he told the doctor, so maybe that's why, because he gave the doctor his name.
Oh, he also called the base and gave them his name and like said he was in the
so
Navy. Maybe they looked him up.
We're talking military intelligence, though, so who knows?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, Allison thinks for a second and realizes that it might have been a stupid idea. Like, the actress does a pretty good job of, like, Anne Lewis, like, looks for a second like, oh crap, maybe that was a trap. Like, she conveys that pretty well in her face.
Yeah.
Then she says, well, maybe none of this is real. Maybe it's all in your head. And I was like, wouldn't that make you not real, Allison?
Exactly.
Like, what are
that
you
is
talking
such a
about?
weird thing to say. That is
And David
such
even
a
says
weird
that. She's
thing.
like, well, then nothing's real. And he's like, I might as well just start blowing the shit out of this hotel room. And it's like, starts like having like a Orson Wellesian fit.
Yes.
And she starts thinking of PTSD and soldiers and is scared and just decides to leave right there, just like that. And I mean, good for her. Folks, this is what you should do if somebody has this freak out moment.
I mean, but at the same time, his friend just disappeared.
And it makes
You're telling him he's crazy and it's all in his head.
And it makes the scene uneven. Like in
Yes.
real life, like, yeah, you'd be like, okay, I'm just gonna go. The way that she's like, okay, I'm just gonna leave. I can't do this anymore. And like picks up the bag and is like ready to leave. And it's like, what just happened? It was like such
Yes.
like a whiplash effect almost on that. But David's like, no, you need to stay. I need you. And she reconsiders and stays. And then she comforts him. And then a police car is actually looking for in the parking lot for signs of the car. And I thought that was going to amount to anything, but it's just showing you that they're looking for them. But they didn't recognize the car. They didn't see the car there, so they're like off the hook here.
Yeah.
He's reading a magazine while smoking, which I would not advise anyone to do while they're in bed.
No.
And that's just a situation for disaster. She sets an alarm.
Well, she sets the alarm, and he's like, what was that? That was interesting. And then she goes to go to bed. He picks up the alarm clock then and starts playing with it.
Yeah, starts playing with it. He
does
definitely
have dog tags on. He has dog tags on right
that's
here.
what I'm saying. He's got identification.
This movie's annoying me more and more. Hold on.
Okay, well, okay. We need to make a blanket statement, and we should have made it at the beginning, and we might have made it at the beginning of Doctor Who or any of the other ones where like time travel have happened. Doctor Who might have been our first with time travel. Oh no, Interstellar.
Yeah.
If you think about time travel movies too hard, it all falls apart. You can't think about it too hard. But you want the
time travel
motivations.
Part.
Yeah,
this
you're
has
right.
nothing to do with the He's just trying to talk to people and say that he was in the Navy. Here's my dog tags.
Yep. Yeah, you're right.
Here's my number. Here's my name.
Here's my number. Here's my name.
It's right there.
So she gets in bed, and he definitely tries to steal a look, because she's like got like the, just like a long shirt on. Yeah,
I guess.
As you do. I thought so. She stares at him for a second, and I'm like, all right, they're just gonna fuck. I was like, they're gonna fuck right now.
Yeah, you kind
just
of expect
fuck.
it.
You're gonna fuck. I've seen Terminator. I know you're gonna fuck. So they don't, though.
No.
He just kind of annoys her a bit because she's trying to sleep. She's had a long day. She met these time travelers. She was kidnapped. She got an x-ray. It's a long day. He thought he caught a name on the news, though, and then he turns on a Reagan speech.
Oh, the president's talking. Yeah.
Yeah. And, of course, actually a year before the Back to the Future makes this joke about Ronald Reagan being an actor and then becoming the president.
Exactly.
Because he says, like, are you sure that, like, is this a movie? Because I've seen this guy before. And, like, no, ha ha ha. We made an actor the president. Can you imagine, Rachel, making someone that's not qualified to be president the president of the United States? Can you just imagine?
It just seems really silly to do something like that.
It really seems
silly.
strange. Yeah.
You can't
How
do that.
comical. We'd have to be hitting
So
the
goofy.
bottom of the barrel
Absolutely.
to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he examines the planner thing, which I think is what the alarm clock was. Then he starts smoking while thinking in bed, which I guess you really shouldn't do again, but whatever. Meanwhile, a hellhole is opening up, and people really should be scared, because if you look into the sky in Nevada and there's a hurricane eye, something is wrong. Something is very
be
wrong.
Scared. Everybody should be in their shelters or something.
I guess they do a little bit of news, like on the news, of saying like, oh, there's like all these weird weather events are going on. So I guess they're like pacifying the public that way.
I guess. But at the same time, shouldn't you be kind of like, I don't know, warning them more so than just being like, well, it's just weird
no, you
weather
can't.
stuff.
You don't want to cause a panic.
I guess.
But I would be doing a little bit more than what they're doing.
Yeah.
Tobo's got a Coke. They're examining something while Navy guys are in the tank. And they're doing something with a missile. And I was like, are they going to shoot this hole?
Yeah, of course.
And they are going to shoot this hole.
Shoot first. Figure out everything else later.
Well, they're sending a camera.
Yeah,
or
it's
something
actually a
inside,
camera. It's
but
not a bomb.
It's via missile. But I thought they were just like, yeah, fuck it, shoot it. We'll see what happens.
That does feel like it though.
It goes into wormhole vision, and it's sending them a perfect picture of the TARDIS thing.
It's beautiful.
They see there's a ship in it. The TARDIS is there. There's a boy and his dog. There's
the Wicked Witch of the West on a
the Millennium Falcon looks like
bicycle.
it's in there.
Yeah.
They go to the orange fields of California. I'm basing that off of this establishing shot that takes a long time. There's some sexy synth music, which almost made me think that John Carpenter did a pass on the score. I don't think he did, but it was a little bit like, oh, we're doing the 80s synth music. All right. Allison says she wants to go to LA. She's got some degrees. She's won some awards for stuff that she's done back in Cincinnati or Columbus, one of the two. And he doesn't believe her. And I'm like, come on, David. You're a time traveler. She's being very nice to you. The least you could do is humor this woman
and not be
like,
sexist.
oh, you're award winning. Okay.
Look, dude, you're being a pig. Stop.
Wait. Did you think that you didn't? That
you don't think that's sexist?
He
was being sexist. Women has its per place.
Oh, I didn't even think that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just that she was being like, it sounded like a yarn to him because it was like, oh yeah, I have this and I have that and I have all these rewards. Like it just sounded like too much for somebody from that time period to think that somebody could do all that, or like that she's like trying to impress him. I didn't think of it that way.
I kind of am thinking it might be the okay, lady. Yeah, okay.
Huh.
You're supposed to be fine because they talk about this, right? Where you're supposed to find a family and settle down.
Yeah. So then they start talking about that.
He's thinking like, no, you're a woman. Women don't do that.
Mm-hmm. This is where we find out the thing about the job, and she's mad at the guy. And yeah, he says, "What about the rest of your life? Marriage, kids?" And yeah, they say the whole thing about like, I don't, want to get married. What about kids? And she's like, well, you don't have to be married to have kids. And he's like, oh, I'm from the 40s. That scares me, even though there's bastards all over the 40s. So like, come on, get out of town.
Yeah, but the nuclear family, that is strength right there.
Yeah. There's unwed births or whatever would be the term. In the 40s, they would have called them bastards. I don't know what.
I don't know.
I don't think there is a term anymore because nobody gives a fuck.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
See, nobody cares. She shows him how to open up a Coke can.
Which I'm surprised she didn't do in the hotel.
Do you want a Coke? And like, yeah, like they should have been drinking a Coke with their Chinese food to put that product placement in even more.
Yeah,
so
you're right. Like, I guess it is here.
It's there, but it's not to compare it again to E.T. because it was what we, watched previous to this.
Yes.
They asked for Cokes and there's Coors Light and there's stuff.
Yeah.
The pieces are all over that
Skittles.
too.
No, I'm sorry. Reese's Pieces. And
she's right back to the Skittles. Anyways, she shows him how to open up the can. It's pretty neat. Hey, pretty neat opening up the can that way.
Right.
He wanted a girl in every port.
I'm surprised
That's why
he
he joined the Navy.
Doesn't taste as good.
Yeah, he should have been like, doesn't taste right or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, because it's like artificial or something now.
Yeah.
He changes the station to jazz because he's like, this is more my speed. Yeah. And then a car flies by and it's a Porsche. And he's like, now that's really me. Because he's like, oh, fast cars and fast women. Hey. So, like, they're bonding, but this is definitely not, like, a totally necessary scene, but I think it's supposed to be more of, like, the relationship here.
Yeah, and him, like, understanding, I kind of like this time. This is, it interests him.
Okay. I guess you could say that that's them trying to set up him thinking that this time interests him.
It's more him. And I feel like that's where they're going with it, but they did not show enough of him not feeling like he fit in the 40s. But whatever, it's fine.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, otherwise we're talking like this, instead of an hour and a half long, this would be like
2 hours.
Interstellar length. Like this would be like, I was just born too early and I'm trying to get myself into the wormhole.
I think that's the
whole
whole idea.
Get myself a robot here in 1943, put myself on that ship and see what happens.
I'm gonna name him Tars.
You could do that. Interstellar meets Philadelphia Experiment. You could have done that.
100%. Yeah. They're like, okay, we did this experiment 100 years ago in Philadelphia, and we're going to
try
do it again.
To try to get back the food supply. Yeah.
That's right.
Longstreet is with that we could have gone up for 10 minutes on that.
Oh
so
my
I'm just
God,
gonna stop us.
absolutely. No,
Longstreet
that's fine.
Longstreet is with the doctor who was examining Jimmy, and he's examining a picture of the Navy man, and he IDs Jimmy. And then Longstreet's like, is this the other one? And he's like, yeah, her dag. And you could tell Longstreet's a bit freaked out about it, but he doesn't really, like, show it.
Right.
So the doctor is, like, going to say something, because he goes, like, because he says, like, don't, like, go ahead and, like, you can leave now, doctor. And the doctor's like, and he's like, this is not the time. I think he was going to say, but he's my patient, but he disappeared. And Longstreet's like, yeah, I can fill in the blanks. Like, I don't need to know. It's not, like, the time to kind of discuss that. So I'd like to think that the doctor was going to say, but he was my patient, but he also could have been like, the dude disappeared. Like, you have to tell me what happened here. And he's like, I'll tell you later. This is not the time.
Yeah, I guess he was just doing but like this whole weird thing happened with that guy in the room, and they're like, yeah, we're going to make you sign this NDA to never speak of that again.
Or we will shoot you the second that you walk off this base.
Yes. We're going to make it look like you were trying to do something to us, so we had
Yeah,
to shoot
you were a drunk. No, you were a drunk, and you botched that. Yeah, that guy that disappeared,
yes,
you
that's
botched it.
That's right.
Then you jumped off the building. Yeah, that's what happened. Tobo comes in, and the vortex is twice the size and is pulling in surface matter now. So now it's literally pulling up mountains and shit, like in Spaceballs. Mm-hmm. It will basically destroy the planet. So Longstreet...
It's going to destroy the universe.
Oppenheimer.
That damn thing is like a black hole. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. He is Longstreet, destroyer of Philadelphia Experiments.
That's right. Longstreet?
Longstreet?
Every time you said his name.
What a reference that is.
Every time.
They make it back to David's old town. I'm losing my voice from all this yelling. He sees his father's place, which was like an old gas station. Because he's like, oh yeah, there's my big tree. There's that building. There's my father's gas station. It looks like it's now a Texaco. So they go to check it out in this another newly rented car. It's like different than the previous scene. So they like must have dropped the car off at another rental place and like picked this one up. Dude comes out from under the car. I thought it was going to be the dad, but it wasn't. It's just some random guy.
I thought it was going to be a relative, like it's his nephew or something.
Yeah, I thought it was definitely going to be somebody related to him. I thought it was going to be the dad. Because I thought you were going to get this, like... too. I thought you were going to get this scene where they reunite.
Like, the guy looks at him and goes, like, oh my god, you're my son. Like, it would be nuts.
Like,
yes.
David? Yeah.
Right.
But this dude comes out from under the car, goes to fill it up. Were we still doing that in the 80s? Where, like, an attendant fills up
maybe in small towns?
Okay.
I don't know.
Like, folks, let me know if this was still around in California in the 80s.
Do they do it now?
I'm a little surprised.
That's what I want to know.
No, just New Jersey just does it now.
Oh, that's true.
I think it's illegal, actually.
Oh, okay.
For any... It's illegal... No, it's illegal to pump your own gas in Jersey. I don't know if it's illegal to pump your own gas anywhere else. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right.
There's a bunch of pictures on like a wall, and Allison sees David in one of the photos and approves it. That like, okay, he is telling the truth because it's like clearly the 1940s based on this photo, and
he's like, what? You didn't believe me until now, lady? Like,
well, like, how does the photo prove it either? Like, if she didn't believe him now, like in the past, like, how does the photo make it like?
I mean, I guess because it looks like an old photo. Like, how deep is this man going to make it where it's like, yeah, I'm really, truly trying to make it look like I lived in the 40s.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Well, that would be very deranged, for sure, yeah.
Exactly!
So this gas station guy...
And then, well, I mean, she does ask him about the questions about the picture, too.
Oh, like, who is this in the picture?
Yeah, like, who is that? And, like, when was this? And he goes, I don't know, about the 40s, 50s, something around there.
Oh, yeah, he says, like, 40s, 50s, yeah. Yeah, he says the guy that owned the place moved back east to do the racing circuits, and he became, like, a famous race car driver.
Yeah.
But he died a few years ago. David starts to cry, because of course
Yes.
you would. You find out that
Yeah.
your dad is dead. And he kind of walks off. And she asks him if he wants to drive, and he's like, I'll be fine. And, I mean, it would probably be nice if she drove. You know, folks, crying while driving is a dangerous thing. She probably should have let her drive.
I think it might be one of those things where he's just like, I'll drive because it'll make me have something else to do other than wallow. But I agree. You're sad. Be sad for a few minutes. But he's from the 40s, you know, and it's still the 80s. So.
Yeah, so he's got to look tough, or as tough as he can.
Yes.
Michael Pere playing David. I don't think we talked about him because I don't recognize him from a lot of stuff that I have seen, but he has been in some stuff. The Virgin Suicides, I think, is one that people probably know. Hope Floats. The Lincoln Lawyer from 2011. So he's in some stuff, but I haven't seen him in, I cannot picture if I've seen him in anything else. But anyway, he does a decent job of acting sad, but trying to not let it out.
Yeah. His eyes are very glassy. He got the I can cry on cue down.
He got that down, or they got the glycerin there, just under the eye.
No, I
but
think
like his facial
eyes
expressions
look glossy.
Yeah,
like,
that's
they
what I'm saying.
are
Like,
full
his
of
facial
tears.
expressions look like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good to know that his dad was like, fuck it. My son's dead. I'm going to go be a race car driver. Kind of left him there. And then I thought, because of the twist that's coming up, I thought, oh, I bet you that David ends up going with him to be like, help on the race car driving or something. Like, I thought that twist was going to come. Because Jimmy, spoiler alert for the next 10 minutes of the movie, Jimmy ends up going back to 1943.
Right.
So I thought, I bet the dad didn't just abandon
he goes back
like
in
California.
Time. I see
yeah,
what you
I bet
mean.
that he goes with the dad and they both become race car drivers. Or
Right,
something.
he goes to be with him.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be the twist. Or like, oh no, it wasn't the dad that became a race car driver. It was David that became
it was actually
a race car driver.
David.
Yeah, like he inherited the
So he went more like, he went AWOL from the Navy and like just said, screw this.
Yeah. But no, it really was the dad. And he's happy that it was the dad because he's like, yeah, he always wanted to be a race car driver and blah, blah, blah. She consoles him as they drive along. I thought a little
That
too
seems
clingy
a little
here.
dangerous. Yeah,
She's like all over him.
She is like I don't look. She met this guy for like a day, like maybe 2 at this point.
Yes.
She
Time
is
traveler.
like,
He's a time traveler.
let me comfort you. I will be your person in this time.
She
You're
clearly
mine.
falls...
Like she is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
quickly.
She clearly falls for people
quickly.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She even says, like, in the car, like, I have a better judge's character than that and everything. And all I keep thinking is, man, I don't think you do.
David says they should have called because they end up going to the Parker Ranch. And we see a guy putting a horseshoe on to establish that it is literally a ranch.
Yes.
David wanted to call because he's worried about what's going on. And an older woman answers the door, and it is Pam, Jimmy's wife. And she looks like she's seen a ghost, because she has.
Because she has.
And he says, it's me. It's David. And she goes to shut the door. It feels like some edits were done in this scene or something, because I was like, did we miss something here? Again, it's like kind of clunky. Something about this scene just seemed clunky to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can put my finger on it, but my brain did. And I can't like quite tell what it was. Did you have that same feeling? It could just be me.
No, it is clunky, and I think this is... So, when the whole story comes together, I think there's a reason that it all happens the clunky way it does, and the way that they're treating him throughout the rest of this movie.
You could just reveal it. I mean, it's the Philadelphia Experiment. We can get into it.
Sure.
We have to.
Okay,
because
so
she
David,
kind of because
she's like, oh my god, it's David.
Twist.
I can't believe it.
I
Right?
I like this twist.
Yes. So what's the twist?
that Jimmy didn't die. He didn't disappear.
Oh,
He
okay, yeah.
lived his life.
So yeah, Jimmy's alive, and he treats him weird, and she's treating him weird. Everybody's treating him weird. I think that's what's kind of making this clunky is the way that they're treating him. Like, go away. We don't want you here.
Yeah.
And they do this throughout the rest of the movie. The government does this. His friends do this, right? They're all doing this to him. And I was like, what the hell? Why are they treating him like this? And I think it's because they don't want him to know what he's going to do in his future that already happened in the past.
If it was the government, I would believe you on that one. I think when it comes to Jimmy, it was just like a very traumatizing experience. And then
Yes.
David never came back. And they called him crazy. Like, that's the conspiracy theory part of it. Like, he was the conspiracy theorist, so they, like, threw him in a mental hospital and stuff, I think. And a mental hospital before 1995 probably
Would be horrendous.
did some... Yeah. I think that's probably why they treat him like that, because Pam tells him stuff.
Yeah.
But you think it could also be because they don't want him to know...
They don't want to change his future that's going to change the past.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I guess true
because they won't tell him anything. Like, Jimmy
that's true.
knows.
That's
Jimmy
true.
knows. And they all know that he did something.
They know that he stopped the experiment. Yeah.
Yes.
You're right.
Everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're all treating him funky, and I think it's just because they don't want to change his future.
But, so she lets them come in. Allison asks if they can come in, and she's
Yes.
like, oh, okay. Yeah, so they, like, awkwardly go in. And Pam says, he was telling the truth the whole time.
Yes.
Pam didn't really believe Jimmy.
No. I don't think so.
So I guess if he was telling the truth the whole time, if he was saying, no, David saved us.
Yeah.
And then he disappeared or whatever. I guess you'd be like, okay, Jimmy, like, clearly, like, he blew up or something. Like,
he had a traumatic experience, thought his, like, friend did something, and he exploded.
Yeah. And Jimmy's going, no, he went back to 1984.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's I think why I thought it was being clunky, because like finally at the end when everything happens, I'm like, so is that why they were treating him like garbage? Like, because it just feels like everybody's mean to him for no reason. Like the man is out of time right now.
I think it's just what happens
and
when
alone,
it goes through
and he doesn't have his friend, and he doesn't have his dad.
Writers.
Maybe. Yeah.
So he did come back. What happened here? We all believed the Navy and the ship and others. Some burned, some died. And David's like, well, what happened to me? And they're like, well, you never came back. And I was like, so wait, Jimmy came back? And they're like, yeah, Jimmy's on the ranch. He's just out on the ranch. And it's like, oh, interesting. So Jimmy got to live his life.
Yeah.
So that's the twist I'm talking about. And I actually kind of like that. Because that's a little different.
I do like that he got to
that.
go back. I'm so glad.
I did not expect
like
that.
Kind of awesome that he gets to go back.
I mean, from like a tone of, oh, like he got to have a happy ending, I guess.
Yes.
That's
the
what
only
you're saying,
happy part, technically.
I'm saying it just from what I thought the story was, where it was going. Like, I thought it was going to be very bleak of just nobody knows what happened to these two.
And everybody just disappeared?
Yeah, but I thought, like, it was an interesting twist where it felt like it was going.
Mm-hmm.
Pam warns David he's not like he used to be. Davey stops him. Like, they're, like, riding the horses back from the ranch.
Pam should have gone out and told him what was going on. Your husband had a traumatic experience and had to go to an asylum because his friend David disappeared and nobody believed him.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to go outside and say, this is what's happening. David is here. Come inside with me. Just go on out. He's out in the ranch right now. Just go stop him on the horse. The guy's going to think he's having an episode.
Yeah, you're right. Like, Pam should have went out and said, like, what you told me, like, you were, I believe
it's
you
happening.
now. Like, you have to come in. Or don't even tell him. Just tell him you have to come inside. You have to come inside.
Somebody's here to see you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just want you to come inside so you can calm down, like, and relax for a minute, because it's going to be kind of jarring. Like, an old friend is here, you know? Like,
yeah. Dave
but instead it's just like, go on out.
Jimmy won't look at him. He shrugs it off. He just won't stop the horse. So Jimmy tries to, or David tries to stop the horse. And Jimmy tells the ranch hands to get David out of there. He doesn't want to see him. He doesn't want anything to do with him. And Jimmy trots away.
Right.
I thought it was kind of funny to watch somebody like literally trot away on a horse as to leave. You could picture this scene,
somebody like stomping
him,
off,
stomping off, but he's literally doing it on a horse, so that makes it kind of funny. And Pam kind of explains that he's afraid he'll get sick. He doesn't want to go through it again. So he thinks that if David is real, like his hand will go and he'll like disappear again or something.
Yes. And
so then they just leave, and I'm like, the dude just abandoned his friend after all that? It just seems on both sides of this equation.
I know. I think more so David feels like, oh my god, like he doesn't even want anything to do with me. Like he feels so alone. Fine, I'll leave. I have to figure this out by myself. He just feels rejected.
Old man Jimmy gets a drink, and Pam says, why not speak to him? I thought good casting to look like an old man version
great,
of
actually.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
They look older than 40 years, I think, but they still look like kind of an old version.
Because he's like at least 60.
He like
70?
in his 60s, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, 70s. Like we're talking Navy men in the 40s. They're like early 20s probably.
Fine.
Or at least like somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking 1980s, 60s too. So like we're talking haggard from all the cigarettes. So yeah, you're probably right. He doesn't want to go through it all again. David leaves. David says, you know what? No, I'm going back. I have to go back and talk to him. And this is where we learn they put him in a hospital. And he's like, I just want to talk to him. Allison's like, well, what happened to him won't happen to you. And it's like, how do you know that?
See? Like, I feel like they're just not telling him anything. And one, he won't even ask any questions because he's running away from everybody.
This is where our first assumption of if Pam were to have been in on it, you could have, like, gotten her to, like, call Longstreet and be like, he's here. And, like, David, you need to stay here. Like, we're going to take care of this. And then David freaks out.
Right.
And then he runs away. And then Jimmy, on horseback even, is like, David, get on. And then the chase is with
now
them
the chase
on the
is on.
horse.
Oh, that sounds even more fun. Oh, my God. It's way too Total Recall, but I love it.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's all just Philip K. Dick sci-fi nonsense. Who gives a shit? So we get a car chase
that would
instead.
be way more interesting.
Well, I'm not even saying that Pam has to be evil. I'm just saying that, like...
No, I just want his friend to want to help him.
Yeah. The Navy tracked them down. Because, like, nobody's really evil. The government just screwed up. They're just trying to, like, fix this. Pam could have just been,
No, they're not actually being evil. That's the thing.
Yeah. So the Navy tracks them down, and we get a car chase through this farm. They shoot at him again.
And that's the evil part, because what are you doing? We just have to cover it up at this point. That's all they're doing.
At this point, Longstreet has told you we need to find him.
Yep.
Not we need to find him and kill him.
We must kill him.
You get some old Duke Boys action in this. Lot of cars tumbling over and flying in the air over some ravines and stuff.
Yeah.
This one goes on for a little bit.
Going through a barn.
I expected them to hit a horse.
Oh my god, I thought a cow was gonna get smashed. But I mean, like, I thought everybody in that car was dead, so when they flew through, it just, like, rolled. I thought it was like, oh, everybody in that car is dead. Everybody.
One of the car flips, has a gratuitous car explosion.
Yes.
One of the cars flips and is upside down and explodes. Which, it's the 80s, you have to.
Oh, of course.
I got a little nauseous from the crane shots on a couple of these in the scene. However, this was one of those scenes where I thought there was a little flair to the movie. I thought there was a little style to it in this chase. I thought he was about to go try to save the people from the car that was exploding, but no, he was just grabbing the papers that were in the car for some reason.
Yep.
to tell him where to go and where the base is.
Exactly.
Like, that's the point of the papers.
It's like, we were actually coming to give you these papers, but we decided to chase you down and shoot at you first.
Wouldn't it have been better if, with this horse chase that we're talking about, and Jimmy's like, we have to go back to this base? Like, because Jimmy would know. It allows this character to be part of the action again.
Right.
But whatever. We're not brilliant Hollywood screenwriters.
We aren't.
So.
It's true. It's very true. They wouldn't believe us. They'd be like,
and
no.
It's like, I'm not saying that idea is better than anything that is in this movie or what they would come up with. I'm just saying, like, you're making Philadelphia Experiment. Like, you're not making high art. Make it fun. Like, make it so it's, like, more... I want more shtick. I want more schlock. Give me more schlock. So anyway. All right, it's a good thing that these papers didn't burn while they were sitting in this exploded car.
This massive explosion. The car is completely just on fire. They're all dead.
Back at the farm, the major and his crew are getting out of the tipped truck, so they were fine. They were just kind of, which, like, I guess it's like a Humvee
One guy like a
type
broken
of
arm or something.
Yeah. But they're fine. And then suddenly we get a new character, this random Woody Harrelson looking ass cowboy who apparently has picked up Allison and David into his horse carriage.
Yes.
They're
hitching a ride?
Hitching. Yeah. In a literal hitch.
Right.
That has to be a smelly way to travel, right?
Well, it's horses, so I'll say yes.
So now Allison won't talk. She wants him to let it go. She's like, we could just go away somewhere. You and me. We could just go away somewhere together.
It hasn't been a week. It hasn't been that long.
Well, she has been shot at and in 2 car chases now.
Yes, but
so
she doesn't have to be involved at all. She is involving herself. All right?
She asks if it's worth dying for, and it's like, well, maybe it's not worth killing for, but yeah, it kind of is. You time traveled. It is kind of worth dying for.
And I don't think I can get over being time traveled into the future in 2 days, lady.
This is like the 3rd time they've had this conversation of leave, no stay, no I'm gonna bail.
Yeah.
And I wrote down, it feels like a kiss is coming. And
a whole
he hugs her.
thing happens instead.
And they embrace, and then there's this kiss. Rachel, I have opinions about this kiss. Do you have any before
Do you have opinions? Tell me.
Yes,
Tell me your
I have
opinions
strong opinions about this.
Weird kiss.
I thought he was going to swallow her whole. I don't know if it's the camera angles or what, but it looked like a horror movie. Yeah, okay, yeah. It's something about the way that like Michael
these
Perry
fish mouths.
kisses.
These fish mouths that don't, like, close. They're like opened fish mouths just going, oh.
Yeah. It's like this. It's
at
like,
each other.
Yeah, like...
At first, he doesn't even go to kiss her. He goes to her neck first, and she's just going, oh, like they're immediately having sex. Immediately having sex.
You think they screwed
You
in
don't
front
think they
of the
screwed
horses?
in the back of there? Oh, I think they did. I think
Whoa,
they screwed it.
It's getting kind of hot back here. The time traveler and Robocop's partner are having sex.
Horses are already sensitive. I would imagine they freaked out over that.
Yeah, I don't know about having sex in front of a horse. They might freak out. There's something about this, because they kiss again later in the movie, and I think I wrote the note of, like, it looks like stop motion in The Thing, where his jaw is going to, speaking of John Carpenter, where his jaw is going to open up slightly and start to swallow her whole because of the way he's kissing her.
It's so awkward. It's very awkward.
And I don't know what the direction was on this. Like, yes, we want the people to know that your tongues are in each other's throats, but we don't want to show tongue. So make a suction with your mouth as big as you can.
The only thing I can think of is the way fish look when they're breathing out of, like, they open their mouths to do whatever they're doing, like filtering, grabbing some food, whatever. It's just open fish mouth, go, ooh, and then they're just smashing faces. Smashing faces of fish mouths.
That's what you come to Shelf Life for, folks. You come for 5 minutes on the kiss in Philadelphia Experiment. It needed to be discussed, and no one else was going to discuss it except for us. We need to do this for America and for the world and for posterity.
That's right.
The wind continues to blow as they arrive at an intersection, and the cowboy gets out to talk to the officer that's, like, conducting traffic because they're shutting down, I think, the entrance into the Navy base.
Yeah, they're trying to keep people away from the eye of the storm.
Yeah. thunder hits his hand again, and he thinks it's happening to him. Like, it is. It's starting to happen to him, too.
Right.
The cowboy's like, I need to get to Salt Lake City, though, and all of this stuff. He sees them stealing the truck. Like, they decided to steal the truck and ram through the barricade to just kind of get through it.
Yes. Yep.
So now they've kind of
But they
stolen
left
this
the
other
horses.
truck.
The horses
They left
are
the
still
horses.
there.
Yeah, they're fine.
They're fine.
It would have been interesting if they also stole the horses.
You know what would have been? That would have been even better. What if they just stole the horses and they just
and they
through?
That's a good idea.
Turn it into a cowboy movie. I want it. Let's go.
Yep, that would have also worked. And the cops are like, we'll get him at the next roadblock. Everyone's so laissez-faire about this happening. Which, like, Longstreet wants him to get there, though, too,
right?
I guess.
Yes.
So you could be like, if it's who we think it is, we want him to get through. I don't know.
It's so weird. It's so weird.
So meanwhile, in the Poltergeist neighborhood, they drive around. This looked exactly like the Poltergeist neighborhood. The wind, the coloring,
really
everything.
You're right.
They drive around looking for the Longstreet's house, I guess. Zool continues to poke through the sky at this point.
Absolutely.
And I'm like,
Raining
why would
down
he be...
lightning.
Yeah. Why would he be home? Why does he think, during this chaos, that this guy's just at his house?
So my
Wouldn't he
bigger
be
question
at
is
the
why
base?
why was this man's address on that paper and not the base? Like, let him know he can come to my house anytime he wants to talk. What is this?
That's where it's like, did Longstreet plan for this?
I don't know.
Because he knows that David needs to. But then why is he surprised that the wormhole is open? There's a lot of questions.
There's so many questions.
I guess they actually could have thought that David did stop the generator, but they didn't know that they thought that Jimmy was crazy that he went to 1984.
I think
and that
that
David
part
just
was the
blew
crazy.
up
He's just dead.
And that he just blew up in the crash. So it's an assistant at this house, and there's a diagram of the town that disappeared. So David's like, you must have done this experiment again. And he says he wants to see Longstreet. And the guy goes, this is the second time that this happens in the movie, where the guy goes for the gun, and David just kind of picks it up first.
Yes. Well, first, the guy
so
was going to
slow
call
of
him.
an action.
The worst part in this is that he was probably going to call him. And he stops him from calling him, and then goes, I want Longstreet.
No, because if he does call him, they're going to come with a bunch of Navy guys, and they're not going to, he wants Longstreet alone.
I guess.
So he has no leverage to get Longstreet to be there alone.
I guess.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's just...
Guy's an old man, too, so...
I thought it was just so comical of, it's the second time where the guy goes to grab the gun and David grabs it and the guy's like, ah, shucks.
It's very an aw shucks moment. I'm surprised it didn't happen more often.
Yeah, there should have been a third one. So they kidnap this guy to get into the base. And
second kidnapping.
I thought they were going to do something clever. They were going to use this guy's credentials to get in, and they were going to hide while the guy took... No, they just rammed through the security again. And I was like, wait, then why did they even stop at the house? They could have just gone to the
this was
base.
Stupid.
They shoot at them again as he flies
Is this
through
just
the base.
is this just propaganda to show how stupid the government is?
Oh, you think this is anti-military propaganda?
I mean, the
by
guy
Stuart
says
Rayfield?
the Navy is stupid and they do stupid stuff all the time. He says that at the beginning.
It was the 80s. We were building up our army to fight the Russians at the time, but there was no
saying.
Yeah. Lightning starts striking everywhere. It sets the building on fire, and then it gets crazy. Then it gets super crazy. So they crash the truck. And it looks like a war zone. It escalates so quickly.
Oh my god, it really does.
It looks
everything
like
is on fire.
Dresden.
It's insane.
Stuff is falling on a guy's head as they get to the main base because they need the kidnapped assistant's help to figure out where Longstreet is. So shit just falls on this guy's head. So, these other people are like, oh, we'll help you. It's like sneaking past somebody in Hitman. You just cause a distraction and walk past.
Yep. That's exactly what's going on.
They go down an elevator, And they had a trap for him. So at
course.
least, after all of this and all of us speculating, they were ready for this. Because they all point guns at him immediately as he gets off the elevator. A Mexican standoff for a second, but then Longstreet says, "Let him through. We need to talk." There's a moment in this, Rachel. I don't know if you picked up on it.
Okay.
I can tell you have a point. I'll let you get to your point in a second.
No, I have no point. Go on.
Oh, okay. Longstreet starts to talk before the Major is done with his dialogue, and I wasn't sure, again, if that was supposed to be natural or if Longstreet just missed his cue and they kept it in the movie. It's right when it's like Longstreet's first line, because the Major's saying something about something, and Longstreet talks over him.
I don't think I noticed that.
Okay, like yeah, if you go to that, like, you might catch it. I thought I heard it. Folks at home, let me know if I was right about that.
I think it was just the way everything was layered. So the guy is talking to him and saying, "Put the gun down."
Yeah.
This other woman is going, "Dr. Longstreet, like, I think he's here."
Okay, so it's intentional.
And then, like, very breathy. And then he goes, "It's all right, Major. Let him speak."
Okay, so,
like, I think it's
so
intentionally
it was
just
intentional.
layered. Yeah.
Okay. That's an interesting little flair, if that was intentional. I thought it was a mistake.
It kind of felt like it. I can see how you felt that.
I could see, yeah. But, I mean, it would be like that. We talk over each other all the fucking time, and we're two people in a situation where we're trying to be, away from talking to each other. In
That's
that
true.
sort of chaotic situation, you would be talking over each other.
Right.
David's like, "What the hell have you done?" And Longstreet's like, "Replay the probe," and shows David the video of the electromagnetic fields created a vortex, and he fell through it. And now it's created a giant...
And there's a boat in there, and a whole city.
There's a boat, and a city, and Homer, and the Doctor, and Matthew McConaughey, Jean-Claude Van Damme, the Hulk. Lots of stuff is coming through there.
Oh, so much stuff. So much stuff.
But maybe... we can't stop it, but maybe David can stop it.
Well, this is where they knew it happened. They knew it. They already knew it happened because he goes, "Back then the hole closed, but it's not closing now."
Right. Yeah, you're right. I guess it's like back then it closed, it's not closing now, which means he's putting it all together. It's very exposition. It's very of like, okay, it's like a parlor scene for Longstreet. He's like, okay, I'm going to tell you everything that happened.
How did it happen?
We don't know exactly. But somehow the electromagnetic fields created in two experiments, one in 1943 and the other now, cross-connected. They created a vortex, a hole in the space-time continuum, and you fell through it.
What the hell are you talking about?
In 1943, when the Eldridge came back, the hole closed behind it. This time it stayed open. It's like a gigantic vacuum sucking everything into it. Now, we can't stop it, but I believe that you can.
How?
Don't listen to him, David.
The generators on the Eldridge need to be shut down. You did it because the survivors said you did it.
Right.
And you haven't done it yet, but eventually you will. What's happening
Yes,
now...
it's wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. It's definitely a Doctor
will
Who
happen
moment.
now. What's happening now? When will then be now?
Soon. And also already.
As long as the hole stays open, it will he will deteriorate, and he'll return to 1943. And they think if that happens, then the hole won't fully close, so that'll kind of be the end of the timeline.
Yeah.
Allison says he's lying.
Clingy-ass Allison.
Why would she think that?
I don't know.
I guess it's just mistrust of the, government or something. Yeah.
She also is just so attached to this man at this point. She's like, "No, you can't leave me. I love you.
Yeah.
You've known me for 2 days, woman. 2 days."
So, like...
maybe 3, tops.
David is pissed at Longstreet. He's like, "You did it again. I can't believe that you did this again." And Longstreet is ashamed. David's like, "Okay, I'll do it." So they put David in this NASA suit, except it looks like a NASA suit if it was designed by a very low-budget 80s B-movie.
Exactly.
Tobo tells him if he doesn't succeed, nothing's going to be left here anyway, so you might as well have a couple minutes with Allison. He looks so 80s movie in this suit, too.
Very. Absolutely very.
Can you describe this suit, Rachel? Because I cannot, other than like a Flash Gordon meets NASA.
So it is a space suit, but it also kind of looks like it's a quarantine suit, right? It's yellow and orange, and it looks like it's also made of plastic. I don't even know how that's it.
Yeah,
it looks very space sci-fi. Like, yes, space sci-fi.
Yeah,
and he's got like a little helmet and everything for it. I guess just in case he can't breathe up there.
Well, they don't know what he's going to encounter while going through the vortex. If he passes out or something.
Maybe it's like a radiation suit. Like, it looks like he could be working at
like a radiation thing.
You know, the Springfield nuclear power plant. That's kind of what it reminds me of.
It does look like this. It does look like the Simpsons nuclear radiation suits.
Yeah.
Or he's about
submarine like suit, you know.
Or he is about to try to resuscitate E.T. It's also
that
possible.
As well. Absolutely, yes. I mean, they had actual astronauts walk into that house for some reason. So what's the difference here?
See that episode if you haven't listened to that one, folks. It's classic Shelf Life. I actually don't know if it is or not, but they embrace again. So
they have a moment.
That way he kisses. I just keep expecting something to pop out of his head and attack her. That's just the vibe I'm getting while they do it. Yeah, you're right. That's the motion. Like, you folks at home again can't see it, but it's very weird. Tobo comes back in to get him while they're making out. I feel like they would have done that for hours and let the world just die around them. The Major... Stop it. The Major is going with them. And I mean, he is a Navy man, but it feels like they could have built to him taking on the job. They could have built this up
it's just
a little
immediate.
bit.
It's just immediate.
Yeah. It's just like, we got to wrap this up. You're going to save the world. And he's like, okay. Like, there's no montage, there's no plan, there's no when you go in like there's no explanation.
What's gonna happen. Right.
Yeah, there's
no, and like I thought, because he goes with this guy in this truck, right? And I was like, oh, it's like a suicide mission for both of them. They're both gonna go together because he's helping him with like the machinery that he doesn't understand now, and then they're gonna go together. And that guy's just like, yeah, I know, I'm just saving the world, it's fine. And then no, he just shoots him out of the top of the truck. I was so confused by that.
That's literally what happens. He just ejects it from the top of the truck. It feels so thrown together because they go out in this experimental rig thing.
Yes.
They're
like burning up. There's just fire everywhere.
To the point, too, where they're like bonding a bit, and this is like almost unearned because he's like, "What did you think of 1984?" He's like, "The television was great," and he's like, "You didn't see enough of it." And
it's like, they bonded. Yes.
Yeah. This is also a schlocky movie, but I'm trying to make this into a schlockier movie. In Independence Day, when Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum go to space. That's what this should have been.
That's what I thought was happening. And then this man just ejects him out of the car.
He literally presses a button and David flings up into the air.
He gets sucked into the vortex.
They monitor from the inside. We get Allison's face superimposed over the fire for some reason.
Yeah, what is that? That
How
is
artistic.
So weird.
Brought to you by the director of Mac and Me. He becomes the first non-Brazilian person to travel through time. Correction, Homer. You're the second. So he goes past the Millennium Falcon. He goes past the Logan's Run graphics. And then he goes into screensaver
village
mode.
And everything. Yep. Mm-hmm.
He ends up back into the ship, and the glowing lights and the Tron graphics are all around him again.
Yes. And he sees Jimmy.
It's hard to tell where the hell he is because of all the cutout frames and stuff.
I think he's just on the deck. I think this is where they jumped off, and it's just like the same spot.
Yeah. He goes back into the engine room, and you think it's going to be something complicated again, like sci-fi.
Yeah, like
he's going to have instructions from the
these
doctor.
Insert this like key, do this like number thing, pull some levers. No, he takes an axe. All right, he takes an axe.
I thought, like the
fire
ending
axe.
of The Usual Suspects had more science fiction in it.
Oh
than
my
this
god!
did.
Yes.
The boat in that movie had more elaborate ways of blowing up the ship than this does.
Yes.
Sorry, I stopped you.
I'm coming in here, I'm taking this axe, and I'm going to just break all of the light bulbs.
He just starts smashing the light tubes.
He just smashes the light tubes. And everything is glowing and inverting in the colors, and it's just wacky and woo.
The machine just powers down. He walks back out. Jimmy's waiting on the deck. David just throws the helmet like, yeah, I did it. I'm done. Whatever.
Yes, that is kind of how he acts. You're right.
Davey says he's got to go. Jimmy's like, you're going back there? And David's like, well, I can't stay here. Again, to your point, Rachel, if they would have established, like, he's a fish out of water in his own time.
Right.
Like, what's his name? Matthew McConaughey in Interstellar.
That's right. Like, oh, I can't stay here. I gotta go save the girl.
Like Cooper. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, they don't really do any of that.
They don't, but that's what they're implying. And I think they tried to imply that, being like, oh, did you hear from your dad? No, he's a deadbeat. And then, oh, but I have my own family, and I'm going to go dance with my husband because I'm having his baby. And he's just left at the bar. I think that was supposed to be an establishing point. And then he comes to the future, and he's just like, oh, I like this stuff.
He likes
I
the
like
stuff.
being here. I love this. Like, I'm falling in love with this woman.
If
and
that's the case, then in your hour 41-minute movie, spend literally 2 minutes. Not Wonder Woman 1984, but Wonder Woman 1984 has a scene like this. I want you to do this, but better. Have a scene where he gets to experience the 80s a little bit.
A little bit more. Like, he's only getting, like, the news.
Yeah, that's all he's getting, is the news and television.
Coke.
And granted, some Coca-Cola. It is the 80s, so we have to be specific.
My bad.
But he could have gotten some Coke, too.
Oh my god, that's very true. He could have experienced Coke.
What's this?
Well, you snorted it.
We put this in everything, but we never snorted it. We just take this to wake up in the morning. Back in the 40s, everyone was on cocaine. He jumps off the ship again. Jimmy asks if he's going to see him again, and he says goodbye. He says, well, I'll see you again someday. Which I couldn't tell if they were referring to what already happened in the movie, or if he's going to go back and try to be like...
It bothers me. It bothers me even more because, like, this would have already happened. This conversation would have already happened. Jimmy would have known David was coming.
Yes. I
At
agree.
some point in his life.
But I guess the torture...
Because he even knew the year. He even knew the year he was going to be coming.
I guess the torture he went through, he wants to believe that all of it was a hallucination. So he doesn't believe any of it.
I guess.
By the time you get to 1984. And then it comes crumbling down because it's like he was right, but he's been told he was wrong, and he probably went through electroshock therapy and all this stuff.
Sure.
If I was
he's shocked
David,
when he was freaking through the experiment and shocked afterwards. None of it's good.
If I was David, I would have said, be quiet about everything, Jim. It'll be better.
Don't worry
for
about
you.
me.
Yeah.
Just go home to your wife.
You can tell Longstreet. Don't tell anybody else what happened.
Right.
Like, that's what he should have said. Like, tell Longstreet I'll see him in 1984 or something like that.
Yes.
Like, that should have been like the jokey line. And then that should have been it or something.
You know, I'm actually kind of disappointed you don't really get to see his son either. Because I thought that would have had something to do with something.
Had something to do with it, yeah. No, it was just she's pregnant because she needs to get back there.
Needed to be, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was probably one of the 9 scripts. And
because it would have been, because I feel like if he did get to meet the son, right, in that moment he would have said, tell Longstreet I'll see him in 1984. Your son is beautiful, or like something like that. Your son
or I met your son.
Just like
he's,
you.
You know,
he's just like you.
Yeah, that would have been
and
a good
it would have
one.
been such a touching moment. But it just didn't have anything to do with anything. So it because I feel like that would have at least given Jimmy something more, you know, to hold on to.
Yeah.
Anyways,
he jumps off the ship, and then the ship shows back up in the harbor in 1943. And then it tries to connect back to the idea of the conspiracy theory, because there's burnt body parts on the boat.
And people are, stuck inside
For a second, I thought it would be Davy, because this guy's, cut in half. And suddenly there's these maimed soldiers everywhere. Somebody's like stuck in the hall and shit. And it's like,
that
when
was
did this become a horror movie in the last 2 minutes?
I think it was happening because everybody was like jumping around. There was fires and there was like blasts and stuff happening. And like even when he goes into the core room to like hit it with an axe, there was a guy just hanging there dead and burnt while it was inside of there. So I think it was happening, but it's like more horrific where the man is like only his face and his hand are out of the part of the ship.
Yeah there's like some gnarly scenes and I was just like, it's really horrific. You'd think that this would be also more apart. Like Longstreet's almost like, I don't want it to happen again, and he's like, he is like haunted by it, but explain to David what happened. I don't know. Back in the observation room, they're all waiting to find out what's going to happen. There's a low rumbling. The town shows back up, and they all celebrate it. It's, that son of a bitch did it. He did it. And it's like, it didn't take much effort. He walked in, he smashed it, he walked out. He literally could make a t-shirt for David Hurdig.
Any of them could
that says, walk in, smash things, save the world. Like,
yes.
That's all that happened.
Yes. Anybody could have done that, I feel like, too.
Yeah, I don't know why it had to be David. Now that you're saying it, it's like they needed to have a reason for it to be David, and I feel like in one of these screenplay re-edits, they lost the reason for why it's David.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it needs to be somebody that already went through the wormhole.
I guess because he knew where it was. I don't know. Yeah, I think it had to be the connection to the wormhole.
Yeah.
But again, nothing was explained because they decided to remove that from the script.
Allison drives out with an army car. She just steals it. And then she does do a pickup Captain Hiller and Dr. Livingston here.
She does just steal it.
Well, she's been stealing cars all movie.
That's true.
But she decides to pull an Independence Day and look around the barracks for them. Here's the thing, though. What is she looking for? Because she doesn't know he's going to come back. So what the hell is she doing?
I don't know. I guess she's just hopeful that he was also obsessed with her enough that he would come back.
She sees him walking, though.
Think of.
Like, she sees a figure in the fog. It turns out to be him. They embrace. He gave up literally everything he knew for her. Like, literally.
Yeah.
And I guess they said he never came back. So I guess technically he did have to come back because he never came back in the 40s. So he would have changed the timeline. But that could have been established more. Like, Longstreet could have been like, but David, there's a catch. And we don't even hear what the catch is.
Right.
But just like as he's preparing, he's like, I'm glad that you're doing this, David, but there is a catch. Or something like that.
Yeah.
And like, we think it's like you're going to die or something, but then it goes to a new scene. And then he's like, oh, he reveals like, oh, the catch is I had to come back or something like that.
Right.
I couldn't mess with the timeline.
Right. I would mess with time too much knowing what I knew.
And it ends on a little joke, which is he realizes something, that the Navy owes him 40 years back pay. Which is true. And they do owe him
for
a
everything
little
that he went through, you know?
Yeah, a little something. For the effort. You know, I saved the world. I literally saved time from collapsing on itself.
Yes.
I am Reed Richards, and I deserve something for this. They kiss, again, grossly, and then the credits roll on a still image of them kissing.
Yes.
And that is the end of the movie. So, we have come to that point of the show. We have gone through, we have dissected, we have analyzed, we have conspiratorially editorialized the Philadelphia Experiment.
Yes.
In full, walkthrough is over. So that means that it is time. Rachel, I will throw it to you first. Does the Philadelphia Experiment from 1984 have shelf life?
So, like, I like sci-fi. I do like sci-fi. I liked the story idea. I like, all like the little sci-fi stuff. I apparently was picking it up a little bit more because of my sci-fi background stuff, but
sure.
It fell flat for me. I came into today going, oh boy, I hope I remember the movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like all I kept doing was wanting to make it better. So
that's a problem that we had throughout this whole podcast here.
Right. And I think because of that, because I was like, oh, I wish they would have done this, or I wish they would have done that, and this would have made it better. And, I like sci-fi, so I wanted to like this. It was fine, but it just fell flat for me, and I can't put it on the shelf.
Yeah, we red letter media'd this episode a lot with the alternative versions of how this could have been made better. We didn't mean to do that. This is kind of how it worked or how it came out. For me, it's not a good movie. You kind of see why it's a bit forgotten.
Yeah.
You know? It's a little sleepy. It's a little draggy. Yes. This is a movie that should be on Saturday afternoon. You're on the floor, feet are on the couch, or you're sleeping. It's one of those kind of movies. It's just kind of it's like you see it, you saw it.
It's a lazy day. It's on in the background.
Yeah, it's in one and it's out the other with this one, which I expected a little bit more schlock to it just because of the fact that the sequel is. I just think it could have been more fun. It's not as fun as I think a movie with this premise could have been. And there's nothing wrong with trying to take a serious tone to this.
Of course,
you can take a tone to anything. Like, it's a melodrama sci-fi, and I just expected a little more fun. So maybe that's my own problem. Because, like, even when we talk about, like, at work, I remember one day somebody was like, how many Batmans are there? And I was like, well, I want several Batman. I want a Batman that's serious. I want a Batman for everyone. I want a Batman that's comic booky. I want a Batman that's this, I want a Thor for kids. I want a Thor for adults. You can do both things.
Yeah,
so I'm not saying that, like, this premise needed to be more fun.
More, like, jokey and kitschy.
Yeah. But a little bit of something could have spiced it up a little bit. As it is just kind of sci-fi hokum and forgetful. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember if I had any other thing to add to this, because I was thinking about what I was going to say in this part in the shower this morning, and I was like,
gotta write those things down right afterwards.
I know, I got to. That's usually where I come up with the conclusion of what I'm going to say on these shows.
Half the time I do it like 3 seconds before I answer.
Well, I will say this, I wasn't as down. I'm with you. It's not on the shelf. It doesn't have shelf life. But I was not as down on it coming in, and I think as we talked about it, I'm lesser on it than I was coming in. I'm not going to revisit this one, really. I'm not upset I watched it or anything. It wasn't insulting or anything like that. It wasn't, like I said, it's not bad. It's just kind of there.
It's there.
Like, if you haven't seen it on a rainy day or on a lazy Saturday afternoon, that's when you can watch this one and you'll get as much out of it as you can imagine.
The premise is interesting. Maybe you can go down the rabbit hole of the conspiracy theory about the Philadelphia Experiment. So, I mean,
become a crazy conspiratorialist with the Philadelphia
sometimes
Experiment.
It's fun to read that stuff.
I agree. We need a podcast out there that enjoys going down the rabbit hole, but does not
without being, like, sucked into it.
Yes, absolutely. We need normal people that, like, dissect and debase all of this stupid shit.
Yeah.
And even the conspiracy theory is not that good. Like, it should, like, it's a good theory. It's
want more to it.
It's a good, like, fake thing, right? It's like it should have led it to, like, and then the Americans tried to do, like, time travel. First, they tried to make everything invisible, and then they were like, it actually traveled through time, so we stumbled upon time travel. Like,
if we can do time travel, we can go back and we can kill Hitler.
Yeah, but, like, it's not... There's, like, that's why I kind of want to watch that documentary on Tubi to be like, am I missing something? But yeah, I'm with you on it. I do think that this one, because whenever I think about things that could be ripe for a remake, it's things that had an interesting premise, had interesting something about it, but just didn't work because of XYZ. And I think that this is a prime example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, where you could remake this and you could make it work, but you just need to change things.
Apparently there is the 2016 version.
I've never seen that.
I haven't either, and I only just noticed that there was a 2016 version, and I'm just like, I wonder. No,
the IMDb rating is way worse. For that one.
Okay.
So could be better. No. But it could be better.
It could be.
Could be fun. I do think we might have to do the sequel based on what that plot is that We Hate Movies covered. Because I'm like, where are the Nazis? There's Nazis in that one.
When you teased that, I was like, oh, I am curious now.
Yeah. That one seems a lot more schlock action compared to this, which was heavy sci-fi.
Maybe that's what they realized. It needed to be a little bit more silly.
Yeah. So that was The Philadelphia Experiment from 1984, directed by Stuart Raffill. It is not on the shelf. And I have been Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
We are going to get sucked back through the vortex of time, or the TARDIS, or the Twilight Zone, or some shit.
I don't know. There's always something taking us.
This whole damn volume.
Holes everywhere.
But we will see you next time for another exciting episode of Shelf Life.
Hey, Smitty! I heard your old lady ran off with a skimmer puke.
I heard it was an air down.
I heard it was both of them. Surface, Navy. Shit floats.